Chapter 1138. He stayed in the grimoire world for another day. If Yang was serious about doing things, he would definitely be a highly efficient doer. Since he had discovered this special material that contained the power of the ancient code, Yang started to think about it. Although this material was not a treasure, it would be a good choice if it was used to make a puppet, armor, a battle arena, or even a small black room for training. Just like that, the Daring Yu clan's third young master cut through his room that was comparable to a presidential suite. Other than the parts of the ship that he could not cut, he used the Wheel of Destruction to cut through the rest of the place. If not for the limited time, Yang would have thought of a way to make a big hole in the thick part of the ship and take out 1,000 tons of materials. After inscribing the runes, the armor made from this material is really not bad. Princess Sisai changed into a dark purple, full-body armor. Although the style was a little old-fashioned, it was much sturdier than normal armor. It gave her a sense of security, and she couldn't help but praise it. "You're not even helping me at all. You're just a big idler, but you're watching me work half to death," Yang complained, criticizing Tigress for not being loyal. "Don't you still have Sister Rain to help you?" Princess Sisai actually wanted to help, but this was really not her expertise. Whether it was recasting the material to create the armor or inscribing the runes, these were not her expertise. These two things were always done by Yu and Sickly Beauty to help Yang. If Shui Wuxiao was here in the past, she would occasionally help because she was proficient in runes. However, the one who could cooperate with Yang the most was Sickly Beauty, who had spent half her life studying runes. Sickly Beauty was not very satisfied with the newly created super sturdy armor. She felt that there was still a lot of room for improvement. Right now, there was too little time, and he wasn't able to do everything satisfactorily. If he had more time, he would be able to design and improve it over and over again, and it would definitely be perfect. Not everyone loved battle armor as much as Princess Sisai. Besides, Yang had also created the moon armor before. Be it the design or the auxiliary functions, it was much better than this relatively clumsy, dark purple battle armor. For them, the most important requirement for a battle suit was to be beautiful, to be able to change, and to have all kinds of auxiliary functions. For example, the dark purple battle suit was bulky and had no ability to change shape. Only a few runes that could be submissive to the power of the natural order could be inscribed on it. Most of the useful runes were not compatible with the dark purple battlesuit, which made everyone who was originally excited give up. As for the permanent defense and the power of the natural order that could offset the enemy's attack power by 10,000 times, they completely ignored them. They also knew that if the enemy was far stronger than them, they would not be able to survive. No matter what armor he wore, it would be difficult for him to win. It would be better to wear the previous moon armor. On the contrary, if the enemy was of equal strength, the dark purple battlesuit could indeed remain undefeated. However, it was too clumsy, and it would not be easy to win, especially if the enemy was retreating. If they want to chase after them, the heavy armor would definitely be a burden. It would be better to wear the moon armor and use its flexible auxiliary abilities to combine tactics to defeat the enemy. If the enemy was not as strong as him, even if the enemy was in a group, he would be able to defeat them with the moon armor. Why would he need to wear the dark purple battle suit? Moreover, the moon armor was a battle suit designed by Yang according to everyone's different body shapes and needs. For everyone, it was unique. How could the dark purple battle suit compare? Lastly, and also the biggest reason, if someone improved and the moon armor could not fully support the owner's combat power, Yang could still upgrade and recreate it. One was a battle suit that would constantly accompany the owner's improvement. It was personally made by his lover and was the crystallization of his heart's blood. It would protect the owner's body closely. The other was a battle suit that had great defense but did not have much room for improvement. It was both clumsy and heavy, and it might not be suitable for the owner. In this case, everyone's choice was obvious. If you guys don't want it, then I'll make a battle puppet mech. Although Princess Sisai had personally demonstrated it, the result was that no one was interested in it. Yang suffered a huge blow. His creation that he had spent a day creating was ignored just like that. It was really sad. It's a little ugly, but when used in battle, it is a battle suit that allows people to attack with ease. Fortunately, Princess Sisai admired it. She really had a discerning eye for heroes. That's you. Not everyone needs to charge and break through enemy lines like you. Impatiens would definitely not wear such a clumsy battle suit. Princess, don't think too much. This battle suit is actually quite good looking. Together with the Prison Tiger Divine Sword, it would be a perfect match. The Southern Demon King covered her mouth and laughed secretly. Although she did not like this kind of super defense battle suit, she did not want to affect the morale of the people. You guys can be proud of yourselves. Princess Sisai looked down on their attitude of wanting to look good no matter what. Tigress, you treat me the best. Let's make a couple's outfit and piss them off. Yu Yang hurriedly comforted her so that Tigress would not give up. Is this the new battle suit that brother invented? It's so majestic, I want one too. The only person who would always support her brother was Yu Bing, the little girl. She had been training diligently all this while. When she had finished training, she saw Princess Qian Qian wearing a dark purple battle armor and immediately became interested. She was still young, and her heart was pure. She did not pay as much attention to maintaining her beautiful appearance and clothes as adults. Being heir is the most obedient. I will definitely make the most beautiful set for you. Yu Yang was overjoyed. He then turned and asked Anan who came with Yu Bing, "Do you want one too?" No. Anan's aesthetic seemed to be more correct, so she immediately refused. Such a direct refusal. It's too sad. Yu Yang was speechless. Ha ha ha. Impatiens, the Sky Law Empress, was overjoyed. Perhaps it was because she saw that few people appreciated Yu Yang's creation. Raging Flame, who rarely participated in the discussion and expressed her personal opinion, took the initiative to ask for a set. In addition, because she took the lead, Bai Lu, who was known as J-Girl, also said that she could order a set. Forget it, you're not participating in the battle. It's just a decoration. Drunken Cat stood up to support her husband. At the same time, she ordered a set for Nyonyo, the little panda girl, and told Sickly Beauty to design a set of her favorite mother-daughter outfit. After this commotion, in the end, the people who decided to buy this super strong defense, which Yu Yang named Black Tortoise Armor, included Princess Sisai, the White Tigress, Yu Bing, who supported her brother and thought it looked good from the bottom of her heart. There was also Raging Flame, who was too tall and only felt awkward wearing the moon armor and really needed the Black Tortoise Armor. There was also Drunken Cat, who felt that having a set of Black Tortoise Armor would allow her to perform better in certain battles. After some hard work, not counting her own set, they finally had 5 orders. Yu Yang thought for a while and decided to make a set for Man, who was still training in the Divine Grimoire world. There were still a lot of materials left. Yu Yang made a 10-meter-tall battle puppet mech named Nine-Headed Dragon and found that there was still quite a lot left. It was not enough to make an arena for a martial art competition, but it was more than enough to make 3 small practice spots on the ground. Stepping on it would weaken one's strength by 100 times. For a little girl like Yu Bing, whose strength had improved by leaps and bounds, this kind of training spot was like adding wings to a tiger. She needed this kind of training environment. When the dark purple materials were laid on the ground and turned into a small training spot, Yu Yang realized that he had unknowingly stayed in the grimoire world for 2 days. He didn't know what was going on outside, so he quickly went out to take a look. When Yu Yang put away the quintet golden puppet mice that had been warning him for a long time, he opened the door. When he looked out again, he found that Grasshopper's face was darker than the bottom of a pot. "Where the hell have you been these 2 days? You didn't even answer when I knocked on the door. If not for Master stopping me, I would have thought that you were a corpse and was about to call the guards to break the door in." Grasshopper was not in a good mood, because his luck in gambling these 2 days was not good. He had lost a lot of money on the gambling tables at the carnival. He had managed to pick up a girl with great difficulty and was about to get a room, but he did not expect to be challenged by someone on the spot. He won at first and then lost. His opponent turned the tables at the last moment, and he could only watch helplessly as the girl in his arms threw herself into someone else's embrace. "We've reached the capital." Yu Yang looked out the window. The white clouds outside were so vast that he could not see the ground at all. "Not yet. The Pelican seemed to have changed its direction halfway and stopped at Whitewater City. It's still on the way, but Master wants you to prepare. I believe it won't be long before we reach the capital. Don't sleep like a dead pig. Grasshopper had been gambling these 2 days and did not pay much attention to the outside. He did not know where the Pelican was. Woo, a strange horn sounded from the depths of the ship. The sound was too soft. If not for Yu Yang's sharp hearing, he would not have been able to tell where it came from. The horn sounded. It was faintly discernible. What was even stranger was that the horn only sounded for a few seconds before it stopped, as if nothing had happened at all. Grasshopper listened attentively, his face full of confusion. The sound just now was an alarm? Someone is invading the Pelican? How is that possible? It's most likely a false alarm, or maybe I heard wrongly. It's impossible for someone to invade a flying pelican. Yu Yang's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. But, having experienced countless life and death situations, his expression did not change. Instead, he asked with a smile, "There's an alarm. What can we do now?" Grasshopper was very impatient. He waved his hands and said, "False alarm. This is a false alarm. What you need to do is to not do anything and continue to lie like a corpse." I'm a little tired too. I'll go back to sleep first and then go on a killing spree when I wake up. The alarm sounded, and he did not need to do anything. That was the perfect time to slack off. It had nothing to do with him anyway. Yu Yang adopted an attitude of "it's none of my business. I'm hanging it up high," and went back to his room to rest. Who cares how much he fought, as long as the enemy did not come knocking on his door? After returning to the grimoire world, Yu Yang and Luo Hua Beauty took a comfortable bath together. After resting for 2 hours, Yu Yang came out feeling refreshed. He casually picked up the historical records of the 8 gods of the mountains beyond mountains that was placed on the table and started reading. However, before he could even read 2 pages, an ear-piercing siren suddenly sounded. The siren was so loud that it could shake the entire ship. Not long after, Big Brother slammed on the door crazily and shouted, "Get up quickly! Someone is invading the Pelican." The siren has sounded. The ship's siren has sounded. Yu Yang slowly closed the book and shrugged his shoulders. Although the alarm had sounded, he had probably missed the best opportunity. 2 hours ago, if he had been more cautious, the situation could have been salvaged. But now, it was already too late. Chapter 1139. Yu Yang opened the door and found Grasshopper standing outside with a panicked expression, as well as a few other subordinates who were also at a loss. Old Spear had not returned, and they did not know what to do, especially when the Gannet was invaded, which was a big event that had not happened in 10,000 years. They were completely at a loss. Should they go with the guards on the ship to defend against the invaders, or should they stay in the room and wait for the chaos to subside? If they went to defend against the invaders, the guards on the ship might misunderstand that they were on the enemy's side. Most importantly, if their master rushed back and did not find them in the room, he might be furious. "What are you still doing here? Hurry up and follow me to the west to provide support. There are invaders there." Just as they were hesitating, a team of elite guards rushed over. One of the vice captains roared crazily at them. The urgent battle at the front made him urgently need all the help he could get. Gather first and run forward. There's an armory in front, and you can get equipment there. Don't worry, you don't actually need to fight at the front. You just need to help treat the wounded and move some necessary items. I promise there won't be any danger. The captain, on the other hand, was even calmer. He gestured for Grasshopper and the others to gather first and be in charge of logistics. Understood. Hearing that they did not need to fight and were only in charge of logistics, Grasshopper's morale was greatly boosted. The hovering space carrier was indestructible. If they helped with logistics now, wouldn't it be a military merit when the battle was over? They did not need to bleed and could get military merit. Why not? Participating in such a battle was also an extremely rare opportunity and shining point on one's resume. In the future, it would definitely be the proudest topic of conversation at the dinner table. When His Excellency returned, he would definitely praise him greatly. Grasshopper was instantly overjoyed when he thought of this. However, before the team finished gathering, Another team of guards ran over. In the opposite direction, this team had obviously suffered a great blow. All the members were seriously injured and covered in blood. They retreated from the direction of the previous team in a disorderly manner, as if they had just been defeated by a powerful enemy. The strongest captain in the team was missing, and the vice captain had lost an arm. They staggered and were supported by two similarly injured members as they returned in a sorry state. When he saw Grasshopper gathering the team, he immediately cursed, "What are you doing? Support? It's already chaotic enough up ahead. Our people can't tell who is the intruder and who is the passenger. Do you still want to add to the chaos? We don't need any reinforcements. You just have to stay in your cabins obediently, and that would be enough." Grasshopper felt wronged. You were the ones who said to gather the troops to reinforce them. Now, he suspected that there were spies among the passengers and told everyone to go back and stay put. It was really hard to be a good person. In the beginning, it was your guards who didn't see through the invader spies. It was your guards who were incompetent. It was your inspection that wasn't strong enough. What does that have to do with us? Feeling resentful in his heart, coupled with the fact that the accusation was hard to bear, Big Brother waved his hand in extreme displeasure and told everyone to go back and rest. He didn't want to do anything else. In any case, there was no reward for doing something, and instead, they would be suspected. Although Pelican belonged to the Southeast Divine Nation, and everyone had a duty to protect it, he was not a guard on the ship. If he did not have to do the job himself, that would be perfect. He could just go back and cover his head with a blanket and wait for the results. It was impossible for the suspending mothership to fall. Perhaps these guards didn't want the passengers to take away their hard-earned military merits. With this thought, Grasshopper secretly despised these defeated soldiers. Things had already come to this, and they still didn't need reinforcements. They were even afraid that others would snatch the merits. They were really so stubborn. All right, I'll wait for the results. Let's see how many lives you have to pay for it. Although it was safe to go back and stay, they would still lose the merit. Everyone could not help but lose the courage they had just mustered. They looked at each other. Helpless, they returned to their cabins and waited for the results of the guards on the ship to quell the chaos. In less than 10 minutes, more soldiers came and knocked on the cabin doors one by one. At the same time, they brought new orders for everyone to immediately rush to the front line as reinforcements. "Didn't you say that you don't need us? We just received an order from your superior, saying that there are suspicions of intruders among us, and we can't go out to provide reinforcements. We must all stay inside and wait for the invasion to subside." Grasshopper was now very arrogant. He knew that these people would come back to beg him. "That's it? I don't know. It's very chaotic at the front, and we urgently need some strong reinforcements." The soldier whose face was covered in blood could not make up his mind. If he brought a team of people to provide reinforcements, it would indeed be fatal if there were intruder spies among them. However, the front line was in urgent need of reinforcements. On one hand, it was an order from his superior, and on the other hand, it was a critical situation. He really did not know what to do. "We don't have enough strength. It's better for us to stay at the back." Grasshopper pretended to decline. He wanted to wait for the soldier to beg him for a while longer. "Then you guys stay here. Be careful, don't run around. It's very dangerous outside now." Who knew that the soldier believed his excuse? Afraid that there really were spies among them, he rushed out to close the door of the corridor outside, locked it, and hurriedly went to find new reinforcements. Grasshopper almost cursed it out loud. "You stupid soldier, it's fine if you don't understand empty words, but you even locked the door of the corridor. Great, it's impossible to go out to provide reinforcements now. Why do you keep running into this kind of people?" Yu Yang was overjoyed. On the surface, he did not dare to laugh, but he almost suffered internal injuries from holding back his laughter. The situation was serious. They would come back to let him go out to provide reinforcements. At that time, he must ridicule those stupid soldiers a few more times. Grasshopper heard the sounds of killing outside. It seemed that the situation was serious. He felt that he still had a chance to make a contribution, so he calmed down and gathered his companions in the corridor, quietly waiting for the next wave of reinforcements. Who knew that, after waiting for more than 2 hours, there was still no call for help? Grasshopper could not sit still anymore. If not for the sounds of battle, he would have suspected that the intruders had been annihilated by the guards on the ship. Otherwise, why did no one come to ask for help? Another half an hour passed. The closed door of the corridor outside finally opened. Grasshopper's originally gloomy and dark face immediately changed into an expression. He snorted, as if saying, "How is it? You guys can't do without me, right?" The person who opened the door was a soldier, but it was not the previous one. Instead, it was another tall and unfamiliar man. Unlike the previous soldier who was covered in blood, this person had no bloodstains on him at all. He was clean like a gentleman going to a banquet. His face did not have a trace of the anxiety of the previous soldier. On the contrary, he was full of smiles. Before Grasshopper could open his mouth to ridicule him, he clapped his hands to signal everyone to listen to him quietly. "Not bad. You guys have already gathered. You saved me a lot of effort. However, please note that I am not here to ask for help. Please do not misunderstand." The tall soldier was full of smiles. The disturbance caused by the invasion has been quelled. Hearing this, Grasshopper had an indescribable regret on his face. Such a good opportunity, such a good military contribution, but it had slipped away just like that. "The battle that you mentioned has indeed ended." The tall soldier nodded in agreement. "Then, do you still need help?" "Although I do not specialize in medical treatment, I have specialized training in treating external injuries." Grasshopper really hated himself for putting on airs just now. If he had gone with that soldier just now, his contribution would have been 10 times greater than treating the wounded now. Just now, the chaos had not been quelled, and it was extremely precious. But now, the chaos had already ended. At most, it would be the icing on the cake. Needless to say, the contribution would be much smaller. Most importantly, there would definitely be a lot of people competing for contribution now. It would not be like the chaos just now, where those who were afraid of death would definitely not dare to go to the front lines. There would be no pressure to compete. No need. The tall soldier waved his hand, indicating that there was no need. "You guys should have a lot of wounded, right?" Grasshopper lost his voice. "Were there that many people competing to treat the wounded?" "We are not particular about injuries. If it is a minor injury, we can just casually bandage it. If it is a serious injury that cannot be treated, then we will just throw it out of the ship," the tall soldier casually replied. "Then how is that any different from barbaric galactic pirates?" Grasshopper was about to faint. He had never heard of an injured soldier being treated like this. This would definitely be court-martialed. "We are galactic pirates to begin with." The tall soldier revealed his identity with a smile. "You must be joking, right?" Grasshopper's body stiffened when he heard that. He squeezed out a smile and said, "This is not a joke." Hee. "You think it's a joke? Then let me prove it." The tall soldier raised his hand and slapped Grasshopper hard in the face. Grasshopper saw stars and became dizzy. Half of his teeth were even knocked out. However, the tall soldier still maintained a smile on his face. He grabbed Grasshopper's hair and slammed Grasshopper's head against the wall, causing a huge dent on Grasshopper's face. Then, as if nothing had happened, he asked, "Do you still think that I'm joking now? If you still don't believe me, I can continue to prove it." "Sir, spare me." Grasshopper's mouth and nose were bleeding. He could not care less about the pain and hurriedly begged for mercy with a muffled voice. "As long as you follow me obediently, I guarantee that all of you will be very safe. Of course, if any of you want to play some tricks, I don't mind playing a trapeze game with you. Right now, we are at least 10,000 meters away from the ground. If we accidentally fall, TSK, I believe it will definitely feel very good. Of course, if anyone is willing to play trapeze, I will give you a rope and a 10-ton meteorite for free." This kind of tying method of playing has just become popular, but those who have tried it before have all responded very well. It should become popular very soon. Everyone thought for a while. Tie a 10-ton meteorite to their body and throw it out of the ship. It would probably be like a shooting star. If it smashed onto the ground, there would not even be a speck of it left. It was better not to play this kind of trapeze game. It was better not to be so fashionable. Everyone's faces turned blue. They all expressed that they had been obedient children since they were young, and had never been late or left early. Only Yu Yang's expression remained the same. He did not say anything. The tall and big soldier also noticed Yu Yang's existence. His smile did not change, but his eyes were like a poisonous snake's as he looked over. Grasshopper was afraid that he would tire everyone to death by himself, so he hurriedly rushed forward to explain. This fellow is a newbie. He has some problems with his intelligence and doesn't know how to be flexible. Sir, please don't blame him. If you want to blame someone, just blame him. If he did not say it, the tall and big soldier would be very unhappy. However, his act of sacrificing one's own life made the other party despise him. Unknowingly, he reduced his killing intent towards Yu Yang. Even now, looking at Yu Yang's expression as usual, facing them calmly without the slightest bit of fear, he was very pleasing to the eye among the group of green-faced, trembling cowards. The tall and big soldier saw that these people were still trying their best to push them aside in order to survive, and felt even more disdain in his heart. If they were not enemies, he might even praise Yu Yang and feel that he was unyielding. You're really not afraid of death. The tall and big soldier opened his mouth to probe, wanting to know if Yu Yang was pretending to be calm. I've always wanted to try the trapeze game. Also, a 10-ton meteorite is too light. I can't even bring out a meteorite that's less than 100 tons. Yu Yang also smiled. He seemed to be demonstrating that he should smile like me. That's what you call handsome. This radiant smile made the tall and big soldier's eyes stare blankly. Interesting people usually don't die early. The tall and big soldier shook his head and waved his hands, laughing loudly. A galactic pirate who knows how to play trapeze is also quite interesting. Yu Yang did not hesitate to go tit for tat. If there's a chance, let's play a little, but not now. Ha ha, I didn't expect to have so many rewards from this trip. Good, our galactic pirates haven't had new blood for a long time. Luckily, I came early. Otherwise, if Wind Eagle found out, he would definitely snatch people from me. I really want to see that guy's jealous expression. Ha ha. The tall and big soldier laughed loudly towards the sky. When he walked out, a group of rough men wearing the ship's standard armor, but they were obviously barbaric galactic pirates, walked over. Their expressions were filled with excitement and respect as they saluted the tall and big soldier, calling him Boss Ihu. It seemed like this bandit leader's name was Ihu. Where's Wind Eagle? The tall and big bandit leader, Ihu, casually asked one of his subordinates. There seems to be a small disturbance in the east side. Wind Eagle brought his men over there. Lord Raven had just gathered his men at the Warriors Plaza, waiting for Boss to go over. Boss, what's the matter with these lambs? After that rough man reported, he was surprised to see Grasshopper and the others. I don't know why they were locked inside the cabin. I thought that it was Mao Pa-Di who was guarding this place, so I came over to take a look. The tall and big bandit leader, Ihu, laughed and said, We didn't meet Mao Pa-Di, but we did find a good seedling. There, that's him. The tall and big bandit leader pointed at Yu Yang and said, This kid is very interesting, and he has a lot of potential. He's not someone that you rough people can compare to. You guys watch carefully. Even if Wind Eagle comes to snatch him, you definitely can't give him to him. Not even with 1,000 pieces of gold, understand? I know, this kid is a treasure. The rough man laughed and said, As long as he doesn't cause trouble, I'll treat him like a little ancestor and serve him. Okay? You glutton, it's rare for you to be smart for once. The bandit leader, Ihu, waved his hand at Yu Yang and said with a smile, I still have things to do, so I don't have time to chat with you for now. When I'm free, I'll definitely have a drink or two with you. Before that, I'll have to trouble you to make a trip with your brothers. I believe that you're also a smart person, so there's no need for me to worry too much. He gestured for his subordinates to look after Yu Yang, then flew up and floated away. Grasshopper and the others looked at Yu Yang with jealousy and hatred. At the escort platform, old Mao treated him differently and even gave him a trainee divine servant. Now, he actually met the galactic pirates who invaded the sky, suspending space carrier, and even the bandit leader valued him so much. It was really hard not to be jealous and hateful. Why? They were all humans, but their experiences were so different. The rough man's reply was to kick Grasshopper's back and scold, "Scram, I don't want to serve you lambs." On the other side, he put on a smiling face and said to Yu Yang, "Little guy, be good and come with me. I won't treat you badly." Grasshopper almost vomited blood on the spot when he saw this. Chapter 1140. The Gladiator Square. There was a space even larger than a football field in the middle of the Pelican, which was the floating carrier. It was usually used for all kinds of competitions or banquets held by the crew and passengers when they were tired from the journey. That was why it was called the Gladiator Square. When Yu Yang and the others arrived, they found that the Gladiator Square was already full of people. The crowd was so dense that not even a drop of water could pass through. There were tens of thousands of them. More than 30,000 border soldiers and more than 5,000 crew members of the Pelican had been captured by the meteoric bandits, who numbered less than 10,000. Apart from a few elite guards who resisted and were captured after a hard fight, the meteor bandits tied them up and guarded them. Most of the crew members were like sheep who surrendered to the enemy easily. They had never fought a fierce battle, much less resisted the invasion dutifully. The crew members, who were unharmed, did not need to be guarded. They all crouched on the ground and held their heads with their hands, waiting for the meteoric bandits' arrangements quietly. They were even more obedient than the merchants who were forced to cooperate with them despite their complaints. "Damned bandits, if you have the guts, fight me in a gladiator duel. I'll fight 10 of you alone." A tall man who was tied up by dozens of chains was roaring furiously in the middle of the square. If the dozens of meteoric bandits had not been pulling him back, he probably would have broken free with brute force. You've lost me. How dare you be so arrogant?" Yu Yang noticed that there was a tall and skinny man dressed in black with a huge cape fluttering behind him. He floated down from the top of the cabin. What was particularly eye-catching about the man was his pair of extremely long and thin legs. They did not look like legs. They looked more like razors. It gave off a terrifying feeling that it could easily slit someone's throat. The pair of pointed leather shoes gave off a strange visual impact that could kill people's hearts. Contrasting with the pair of legs, it gave people a hair-raising sense of danger. The man in the black cape not only had a pair of long legs, but he also had thin and long arms that were unbelievably agile. He spun and took out a top hat with his right hand. He put it on his head. Then he pressed his left hand on his chest and pretended to be a refined and courteous gentleman. He bowed to the tall man who was bound by chains and said, "Thunder Beast, with your strength as a quasi-divine general, it's really unfair for you to be a fifth officer who can't even make it into the top 10 on this Pelican warship. Why don't you join us and become a carefree space pirate? Wouldn't that be better? If you're willing to come, I, Raven, will definitely not fight with you for the position. I'll give the position of number 2 to you, and I'm willing to be number 3. Other than Winged Tiger, your Thunder Beast is the biggest one. What do you think? Don't even think about it, you corpse-eating trash. Fight me if you have the guts. How dare you pathetic galactic pirates recruit me? I am a prospective divine general with a bright future. I will be a general or even a marshal of the Imperium in the future. How can I be a traitor? Haha, that's hilarious." The tall man who was bound by the chains roared and struggled with all his might. However, many of his bones had been pierced through. His collarbone, ribs, spine, and even his femur had been pierced through his skin and muscles, locking onto his internal bones. There were also dozens of muscular space pirates pulling on the chains with all their might. Even with dozens of people working together, it was impossible for them to break free. The expression of the man in the black cloak did not change at all. His thin lips even revealed a faint smile, as if he had already expected this. His nose bridge was high, but it exuded a kind of unapproachable, lonesome feeling. His eyes were covered by the brim of his hat. No expression could be seen. However, anyone who looked at him would feel a sharp aura approaching them. Drag him down and torture him slowly. We'll release him when he agrees to join us. We have plenty of time. The man in the black cloak waved his hand and instructed, "If Thunder Beast is unwilling to surrender, bring the next one. And you guys, there's no need to be anxious or afraid. We just want to find someone to cooperate with and do some legitimate business. When I'm done with my work, I'll take good care of everyone." The merchants around the man in the black cloak all shivered when they heard this. It was obvious that they were extremely afraid of this young man. "Raven, even you can't move, Thunderbeast. Do you think that I, Blood Leopard, will surrender to you?" An elite captain covered in blood walked out proudly while being restrained by the chains of dozens of people. Although he was covered in wounds and was chained up, his expression was completely unlike that of a captive. He looked more like a general patrolling the battlefield. He was as lofty and unyielding as a mountain. The man in the black cloak, Raven, laughed loudly when he heard this. After a long time, he stopped laughing like a knife. "Blood Leopard, you're indeed a loyal and righteous person. It's indeed difficult to force you to surrender, but I heard that you're also a very filial son. Back then, your father died early in battle, and your mother raised you painstakingly. Is this rumor true? When you return to the capital this time, you'll have the opportunity to be promoted to the royal guard. A filial son like you naturally wouldn't leave your mother behind in such a poor place like the frontier fortress. You'll definitely bring her to the capital to enjoy her old age. To be able to raise such an outstanding person like you. Raven really wants to pay a visit to the old lady to express his heartfelt admiration." Blood Leopard's expression changed immediately. Fury surged in his chest like fire. "Raven, you despicable person. If you dare to touch even a hair on my mother's head, I'll definitely kill all of you space pirates. Despicable and shameless person. How dare you?" Raven waved his cloak and completely ignored the other party's fury. He chuckled and said, "What's going on? If I find the old lady in the crowd, I'll definitely treat her with respect. Why would I hurt her? Don't worry, don't worry. Someone, bring Lord Blood Leopard to rest. When I find the old lady, we'll have a reunion." The elite captain, Blood Leopard, gritted his teeth in hatred. Although he was cursing along the way, he couldn't do anything and was forcibly dragged out of the venue by the strong space pirates. Seeing this, Yu Yang couldn't help but be a little interested in these space pirates. At the very least, this Raven and the winged tiger from before. They were quite interesting. He just didn't know why people with such strength would want to be space pirates. Yu Yang also noticed that there seemed to be two types of rule power in the Gladiator Square. One was the weakening that he was already familiar with, which weakened the combat power of any life force. The other was the enhancement that he was completely unfamiliar with. This enhancement was ineffective against life forms. It seemed to be several times or even 10 times stronger against battle dolls or non-life beasts. If they were the same strength, if one person piloted a battle doll mecha and the other was barehanded, it was very likely that they would be completely defeated by the opponent piloting the battle doll. This Gladiator Square was a bit like an extension of the rule power in the Human Valley. However, there was no limit to the combat power of life forms here, just that it was weakened by 100 times. Although the Human Valley prohibited personal combat power, it was also not as enhancement as here. If this Gladiator Square, or an environment similar to the Gladiator Square, could be placed in the Human Valley, then the battle against the evil deities wouldn't be so desperate. Before Yu Yang could think about it, 2 more men were dragged out. One tall and one short. One fat and one skinny. The tall and fat man's face was full of panic, and his mountain-like body couldn't stop trembling. If it weren't for the dozens of burly space pirates dragging him, he almost couldn't move at all. On the contrary, the short and skinny man who looked like a dwarf was extremely calm. His footsteps were as heavy as a mountain, and he walked out step by step. On his side, it was not the space pirates who were dragging him, but he who was dragging the space pirates. Welcome, the third captain and first mate of this ship, the legendary Meat Butcher, who can make children stop crying, and the Ulna General, who is known as the most honest person in the Southeast Empire. If you two don't mind me, Raven, being long-winded, I'd like to repeat the words I used to persuade you to surrender. The man in the black cloak clapped his hands to show his welcome. Fine. This was the reply of the short man. Ulna General, I'm willing to surrender, Lord Raven. I'm willing to abandon the darkness for the light and support the Revolutionary Army. This was the reply of the tall and fat meat butcher. The two of you have always been most powerful when you work together. It's too much of a pity for one of you to abandon the darkness for the light. My dear meat butcher, the third captain of the Pelican, can you persuade your companion and subordinate, General Inchbone? If he agrees to surrender, I can hand over the entire Pelican to you to manage. Do you see that? The Pelican that you've always wanted to dominate and the suspending sky mothership that you've always wanted to control is right in front of you. As long as you can convince General Inchbone, it will be yours. The man in the black cloak persuaded Raven endlessly. When Yu Yang heard this, he suddenly felt that this guy wasn't bad. If he became a diplomat, he would be a top-notch talent. Lord Raven, General Inchbone is too stubborn. I can't persuade him. Why don't you let me surrender first? The fat meat butcher's lips trembled as he begged for mercy. No, you might not know this, but I'm a perfectionist. If I can't get the best, I'd rather destroy it. Do you understand? If you're the only one who surrenders, then I'm sorry, but I'll fry your fat in oil and add a sumptuous dinner for our brothers. The man in the black cloak, Raven, blew lightly into the meat butcher's ear. I say, General Inchbone, just agree. They've already taken down the Pelican. Now we're all in their hands. You've seen the current situation. If you don't agree, you'll die. Just agree. The meat butcher shivered. He didn't dare to imagine the process of his fat becoming a dinner. Bah! The short Inchbone only had one reply. Since it's like this, then fine. Men, drag them away. Cut off the fat and fry them in oil. Break the bones of the skinny and make soup. Raven's tone was like a chef's. Help! Just when a meat butcher was so scared that he was wetting his pants and crying for his parents, a tall and sturdy black shadow suddenly flashed in the sky. The shadow swooped down at an extremely fast speed, dodging the interception of a few galactic pirate captains. In an instant, the shadow swept into the crowd and grabbed a person. It was the extremely unlucky grasshopper. The shadow stood in front of him and used him as a human shield. He then shot out a sharp blade from his other sleeve and pointed it at Yu Yang, who was beside Grasshopper. He shouted sternly, "Stop! Let him go immediately, or else I'll kill them all." Grasshopper was scared out of his wits. He shouted in fear, "No, don't. I'm not a galactic pirate. I'm not a galactic pirate. I'm an innocent passenger." Yu Yang was the calmest. He took a small step forward and placed the sharp blade that was originally pointed at his neck against his own carotid artery. Then he opened his mouth and criticized. "That's more like a hostage taker. Not professional at all." Chapter 1141. Everybody was rendered speechless by Yu Yang's action. He had become a hostage. Everybody backed off in fear. You, on the other hand, almost want to participate in the whole process. Can't you just watch from the side and be a bystander? The man in the black cloak, Raven, was shocked by Yu Yang's behavior too. But then he burst into laughter. That's right. Whatever you do, professional aside, you should at least have a proper attitude. I apologize to everybody. I did underestimate and play with you earlier, but I won't do it anymore. I've decided to be a professional space pirate with a proper attitude from now on. The tall and sturdy man who was holding Big Brother in one hand and holding Yu Yang in the other suddenly reacted. "Raven, I don't care who these two people are to you, and I don't care what kind of crafty plot you have up your sleeves. Release them immediately, otherwise I will really kill them." Grasshopper was so scared that he almost peed his pants. That was too unfair. They were innocent passengers, and it was already unfortunate enough that they were kidnapped as human shields. How could they be the companions of the space pirates? The black-cloaked man, Raven, threw his head back and laughed out loud. Suddenly, he stopped and said, "Go ahead and kill them. Killing the two of them isn't enough. You can catch a few more in the surroundings and kill as much as you want. After all, it's a waste of rice for me to keep so many people. I'm dragging them to the deck and throwing them away. You think I dare not kill them?" The brawny man was trembling in fury. "Kill them however you want." Raven did not even bother to look at him. "You scumbag." The burly man didn't wait for Ju Chun to beg for mercy. He angrily slammed Ju Chun, the human shield, into the ground, causing a loud bang. Ju Chun screamed again and again, thinking that all the bones in his body had been shattered. But after howling for a long time, he suddenly discovered that there wasn't even a trace of pain in his body. He was safe and sound. Just as he was surprised, he looked up and saw that the burly man had already leapt up like a tiger, pouncing towards the black-cloaked man, Raven. Failure. Yu Yang shook his head and made a puzzling comment. Although the brawny man was tall, he was not clumsy at all. He was as agile as a leopard, dodging the attacks of several space pirates in the sky. He flashed in the sky continuously. He squeezed his way out of the encirclement and made a path for himself. Then he pounced towards the black-cloaked man, Raven, who was on the ground. The black-cloaked man, Raven, did not expect the burly man to have the ability to break out of the encirclement in the air. His reaction was a little slow. Just as he was about to attack, the burly man's fist had already smashed into his face. Boom! The sound of the punch was as heavy as a drum. His powerful fist brought with it a powerful fist aura. The shockwave sent everyone within a 10-meter radius around the black-cloaked man, Raven, flying. Be it the space pirates, the crew members who were holding their heads, or the merchants who were watching the show, they were all sent flying. The scene was a mess. Almost 100 people were stacked together like a human pyramid. There were also people who were sent flying far away and fell into the crowd, causing a commotion. The shockwave created a strong wind that spread out, making it impossible for the space pirates who were rushing to help to move forward. Those who were slightly closer could not even open their eyes. However, the brawny man who thought that he could kill his opponent with one punch was shocked to find that in midair. The Raven in black in front of him. He had used his face to block his iron fist that could shatter mountains. Raven was punched in the face, but he did not seem to feel anything. There was even a strange smile on his lips. With one hand, he gently pressed down on his hat that was almost blown away by the shockwave. His other hand slowly lifted up, passed over the burly man's arm, and fiercely punched the burly man's face. Boom! The brawny man was sent flying as if he had been hit by a cannonball. With a boom, he hit the dome of the arena that was hundreds of meters high, and the huge impact was reflected downward, smashing into the ground like a meteor. The burly man, who had temporarily lost consciousness, fell head first onto the ground in front of the black-cloaked man, Raven. The entire arena shook to the point of trembling. The black-cloaked man, Raven, raised both of his hands up high and danced like a conductor conducting an orchestra to play a beautiful piece of music. Beneath his feet was the unconscious, burly man, a challenger who had tried his best but failed miserably. As the victor, the black-cloaked man, Raven, was in no hurry. He waited quietly for the brawny man to wake up. After an unknown period of time, the burly man couldn't help but let out a painful groan. His eyes hadn't opened yet, but his consciousness had recovered. He was immediately in pain, and his whole face was twisted by the stinging pain. The burly man who was lying on the ground shook his big head vigorously, trying to wake himself up a little, and also tried to regain control of his body so that he could immediately stand up from the ground. However, his wish was not fulfilled. No matter how hard he struggled, his weak arms could not support his heavy and bloody body. Crazy Bull Woo-Bah, if I can't even defeat you, how could I, Raven, dare to come here to snatch the suspending mothership? You should know that there are 2 divine generals on this ship. If I can't even take down a small divine attendant guard captain like you, wouldn't I be courting death by coming here? Raven shook his head and waved his hands. He revealed a sincere smile. Maybe you are not satisfied, but I don't mind telling you the truth. Actually, other than the 2 strongest divine generals on this ship, the first captain of the Gannett, Griffin Marshall, and the first commander of the Border Army, Thunder Eagle General, who has been relieved, no one else is a match for me. This includes the Thunder Beast, Blood Leopard, and Ulna that you all think highly of. The brawny man was shocked and doubtful. He squeezed his voice out through his teeth. Impossible, I don't believe it. Raven smiled confidently. I'm telling the truth. The brawny man named Crazy Bull Woo-Bah roared. You are misleading us with your lies, Raven. Others might not know your strength, but I do. You are the same as me. We are both divine attendants, and you are even weaker than me. I have chased you for almost 10 years. Do you think I don't know how strong you are? You must have used some despicable means to ambush me again, to fake your strength." The man in the black cloak, Raven, did not deny it. He waved his cloak behind him, causing it to flutter in the wind. "You are right, but that was in the past. The current me is different from the past. Mad Bull Wu Ba, if I want to defeat you now, I only need to lift a finger." Hearing this, Crazy Bull Wu Ba's expression suddenly changed. He asked in a trembling voice, You obtained the forbidden power? Oh my God, you are dead. You are dead." Raven laughed loudly. "That's right. If I use the forbidden power improperly, I will be dead. But I already know how to use it properly. I will not be cursed by God. Besides, you also know that with the protection of that thing, it doesn't matter how I use the forbidden power." Most people were confused by what they heard. But Yu Yang, who had the Heaven Eyes divine vision, noticed that inside Raven's black clothes, there was a dark purple pendant tied around his neck. It looked like stone, but it was not stone. It looked like gold, but it was not gold. It was a brand new item that Yu Yang had never seen before. On the surface, it looked very ordinary. If one did not know better, they would think that it was just a decoration on the cloak. But in Yu Yang's eyes, he could see that the pendant that looked like a fragment contained a huge amount of divine power. This kind of divine power was relatively peaceful and did not have any attack power. It had a continuous, invisible, and silent beneficial effect on living beings. It was because of this little thing that Raven could use the forbidden power that Crazy Bull Wu Ba spoke of without restraint. And under Yu Yang's observation, Raven was very smart. He did not put the forbidden power into his body at all. Instead, he used an unknown method to attach it to his black clothes and cloak. If Raven took off his black clothes and cloak, his battle power would immediately be weakened 100 times. But now, it was as if he was wearing the best armor and holding the best weapon. The pendant fragment that could peacefully suppress the forbidden power on his black clothes and cloak for Raven's use had piqued Yu Yang's curiosity. What exactly was this pendant fragment? An ancient artifact. Almost without thinking, this term flashed through Yu Yang's mind. Only this kind of explanation could convince Yu Yang. Otherwise, even if this was the outer mountains of the underground valley, it was impossible for such a vast and peaceful divine power to be stored in a small fragment of the pendant. If this pendant was really an ancient artifact, then based on its fragment, the ancient artifact should be very big. At the very least, it would not be a small piece. As a space pirate, why would Raven have an ancient artifact? At the same time, Raven was not second to none among the space pirates. He was only the second in command in a certain space pirate team. If even he had a fragment of an ancient artifact, then as his boss, Winged Tiger, the other Winged Eagle, or the leader of the space pirates must also have a fragment of an ancient artifact. Who was it that secretly gave these space pirates a fragment of an ancient artifact? Who would support a group of thieves behind the scenes? What was their intention? According to the conversation between Raven and the Mad Bull, it should not have been long since he obtained a fragment of an ancient artifact. Otherwise, there was no reason for the Mad Bull not to know about the changes in Raven. Moreover, the space pirates had only just invaded and robbed the suspended mothership, which meant that the space pirate leaders had just obtained a fragment of an ancient artifact and the forbidden power. Apart from these space pirates, who else had an ancient artifact? Countless questions surged into Yu Yang's mind, and he could not answer them for a while. However, while Yu Yang was puzzled, he was also a little glad. Luckily, he had run into the space pirates at the very beginning and found the whereabouts of the ancient artifact. Otherwise, he really would not know where to look for it. Now, the space pirates had come to him. As long as he followed the clues, the truth would eventually be revealed. As for now, he did not need to take action yet. He could only wait and see what would happen next. Perhaps, in the end, there would be even more surprises. Chapter 1142. Yu Yang was the most comfortable hostage out of all the hostages. Not only did he not need to squeeze into the Gladiator Plaza with the others, he was also treated very well by the galactic pirates. Other than abundant food and clean clothes, he was also given a private cabin. Although it was not as luxurious as the original cabin, it was still much better than a normal galactic pirate's. After the galactic pirate Spotted Duck, who claimed to be Yu Yang's big brother and said that he would protect Yu Yang in the future, delivered dinner, Yu Yang unceremoniously chased Spotted Duck, who was pretending to have a heart-to-heart talk out. Yu Yang slammed the door shut, almost smashing Spotted Duck's nose. Then, Yu Yang leisurely returned to the grimoire world to rest, not bothering about the outside world at all. Spotted Duck rubbed his sore nose and went back to report to Boss Winged Tiger. Hearing this, Winged Tiger laughed out loud. Raven, who was at the side, frowned slightly. This young man is probably not easy to control. He is not the kind of person who is willing to be under others. Black Leaf, you are just jealous. Winged Tiger patted Raven's shoulder, shook his head, and smiled. Understand, you're also a young man. No matter how broad-minded you are, you will also be a little jealous of others who are more outstanding and have more potential than you. When a person sees a strong opponent, no matter which faction they are from, they will always feel a little unhappy. This is human nature. I'm not. Raven wanted to say something, but stopped. It's okay, I understand. Winged Tiger nodded. Just like what you said, although this young man has potential, it is still uncertain whether he will be willing to join us. A young man like him might always have a capable person guiding him. We are just a bunch of galactic pirates. It is hard for us to accept his bright future. However, I'm just trying my luck. Before this, don't let that fellow Wind Eagle know. Otherwise, even if he falls out with us, he will still snatch him away. Yes, I know what to do. As expected, Raven did not harp on this topic. Boss Winged Tiger, there's news from Lord Feng Yi's side. He said that Marshal Griffin, General Golden Eagle, and Envoy Malputty haven't been found yet. A brawny space pirate hurriedly reported. Things are a little strange. Raven frowned again. Griffin, Golden Eagle, and Malputty are definitely still on the ship. They are waiting for an opportunity to retake the Pelican. Winged Tiger, who was wearing an ordinary soldier's armor, nodded. I dare say that the Griffin and the Golden Condor are hiding in the dark, spying on us. What they are truly afraid of is the Flamingo, who is able to hold its own against two people, and not me and Wind Eagle. Perhaps they already know that we have grasped the taboo power, so when the ship changed, they hid themselves, not giving us a chance to attack. However, this doesn't mean that they will give the Pelican to us so easily. I have a feeling that there will be a fierce battle later on. Right now, this is just the warm-up. Blackleaf, you have to be more careful in the future. I will be extra careful. The man in the black cloak, Raven, did not dare to be careless. Even though he had grasped the taboo power and his strength had increased by 100 times, the positions of the Griffin Marshal and General Golden Eagle were not raised by nepotism. Their reputations were built through real battles. No one could look down on them. Winged Tiger, who was wearing an ordinary soldier's armor, pondered for a while. Pausing for a moment, he said to the vulgar space pirate, "Go to the captain's cockpit and tell the Pelican to hurry up. We have to reach the meteorite belt between the mountains and the underground valley as soon as possible. Only there is our territory, and only then will we be truly safe. Although the Pelican isn't the fastest suspending space carrier, it can still travel 10,000 kilometers in a day. From the looks of it, we will be home in half a day. Ask Pelican to keep a close eye on it. At this juncture, we cannot make any mistakes." After Spotted Duck left, Winged Tiger fell into deep thought again, guessing where the Griffin and the Golden Condor would be hiding on the ship. What was the safest place on the ship that he had overlooked? What was the safest place on the ship? Winged Tiger could not come up with a solution. Helpless, he let out a long sigh. Although the plan was perfect, there were many loopholes in its implementation. It seems that after I obtained the taboo power, I could not maintain my previous cautiousness and meticulousness. Instead, I became overconfident. In an extremely ordinary cabin, there was a table. Two people were sitting opposite each other. There was chess on the table. They were busy fighting. The chess player was staring at the chessboard with full concentration, as if he could not hear the footsteps of the space pirates outside. Beside the two of them, there was a man sitting and watching the game. He looked slightly nervous, but it was unknown whether it was because of the chess game or because of the approaching footsteps grimoire world. As soon as Yang returned to the grimoire world, he immediately gathered everyone. Princess Qian Qian and the others were originally resting, but upon hearing the news, they hurried over. Yu Yu and the others were still all right as they had changed into their formal attire. However, Phoenix Fairy Beauty was too lazy to change, so she just wore her faintly discernible nightgown and directly came over. The two blooming vermilion fruits propped up her towering peaks. As if this was not enough of a temptation, this Sky Law Empress couldn't help but yawn, causing her chest to ripple. Seeing this, Yinan, Xia Yi, and the others almost felt inferior and hid away like little quails. What the hell? How long has it been since she last saw her toes? Princess Sisai could not help but complain. Don't talk about you, Xiaonu. Don't misunderstand. Yu Yu was afraid that Xiaonu would be sad and quickly comforted her. You guys can't be jealous. Only little scoundrel knows how good it is. Phoenix Fairy Beauty gave Yu Yang, coquettishly, causing Yu Yang's mouth to go dry. He almost didn't announce the end of the meeting and immediately carried the Sky Law Empress to the bedroom to discuss the 72 styles in the room. If you're asking us to look at your pig face, then you have succeeded. Princess Sisai punched Yu Yang in exasperation. Cough, cough. Actually, I have something important to discuss with everyone. Yu Yang quickly regained his senses. Forbidden power? An ancient artifact fragment that can control forbidden power? After listening to Yu Yang's detailed explanation, everyone fell into silence. After a long time, Fallen Beauty was the first to speak. Could this ancient artifact fragment be related to the ancient artifact you are looking for? Definitely. Otherwise, why would the senior in the Silver Grimoire Endless World ask him to come to mountain beyond mountain to look for it? I'm just thinking that it would be troublesome if this ancient artifact was broken into many pieces and collected. After careful consideration, Princess Qian Qian felt that the biggest suspect for the destruction of the ancient relic was the battle between the two gods, Tai Yin and Bing Li, and their deaths. If that was the case, it was very likely that the other 8 false gods had the largest fragments of the ancient relic. What Raven and the other galactic pirates had obtained was just the smallest fragment that contained the least amount of divine energy. I don't know about the situation in the underground valley, but there are no restrictions in the mountain beyond mountain. We can go out and help you when the time comes. Impatience was already prepared. If there was a need, she would go out and challenge a fake god. Although it's not a ban on martial arts, weakening it by 100 times is not a factor that can be ignored. Yu Yu very rationally pointed out the key point. If only we could also use that forbidden power. The Southern Demon King sighed. No. Fallen Beauty rejected immediately and said sternly, first of all, we do not know how to obtain that forbidden power. Second of all, regardless of whether we will become dependent on it, using other people's power to strengthen ourselves is a kind of false power. We cannot do that. Otherwise, it would be like rowing a boat against the current. If we do not advance, we will fall behind. I am just making a hypothesis. The Southern Demon King quickly explained. This is just from a tactical point of view. It is not entirely wrong to do this, but it is not the best choice. We should try our best to avoid it. Sickly Beauty, who rarely spoke up for the Southern Demon King. As Yu Yang's first woman, although she rarely interfered with the matters of the outside world, her position in everyone's heart was actually quite high. Even the Queen of Tian Fa, Impatience, had to be respectful to her. When everyone looked over, the Sickly Beauty revealed a smile. Her face was like 100 flowers blooming in spring. Even if the crowd was filled with all kinds of unique beauties, it would be hard to compare to the Sickly Beauty's rare smile, which was as gentle as water and as calm as still water. Sickly Beauty reached out her hand, gently caressing Yinan, who was sleeping in Yu Yang's embrace. Yu Yang's soft and tender face was as gentle as a mother's. Yinan's long eyelashes trembled slightly. She seemed to be half awake, but because of Sickly Beauty's comfort, she quickly fell into a deep sleep. Sickly Beauty raised her jade-like finger to her lips and made a gesture for everyone to keep quiet. She then said softly taboo energy is difficult to control, and it is very likely to harm a body. It is not beneficial for cultivation either. We should try not to use it if we can. However, I believe everyone has noticed that the divine energy stored in the ancient relics can resist taboo energy. We don't have to use taboo energy, but we can use the fragments of the ancient relics. Yes, with this, the enemy's taboo energy is as good as useless. Princess Qian Qian was so happy that she almost slapped the table and stood up. However, when she saw Yinan sleeping soundly in Yu Yang's arms, she quickly sat down again. Although she had lowered her voice, she could not suppress her excitement. Xiao-san, you came back this time to inlay the fragments of the ancient relics on everyone's Xuanwu battlesuit, right? The person who understood Yu Yang the most was still Yu Yu. How did you guess? Yu Yang was surprised. Look at your complacent face. You're just like a child asking for praise. Unless you're blind, who wouldn't be able to tell? Yu Yu laughed as she scolded him. However, she was the first to guess Yu Yang's intentions. Her heart was filled with sweetness. You also stole the fragments of the ancient relics? This time, Princess Qian Qian was so excited that she couldn't sit still anymore. She jumped up and punched Yu Yang lightly, almost waking Yinan up. It was rare for her to be so cute as she stuck out her little pink tongue and then reached out to pat Yu Yang's cheek. Good boy. You did well. Looks like I'll have to reward you with one next time. She had originally wanted to say that she would reward Yu Yang with a kiss, but seeing that everyone was watching, she couldn't resist her pride and immediately changed her words. Not bad. I'll reward you with a candy next time. Everyone was really a loss for what to do with this prideful princess. Even if you kissed him in front of everyone, no one would say anything. Is there a need to make things difficult for yourself? Even if you don't feel tired talking like this, everyone will feel tired for you. Chapter 1143. How did you manage to steal Raven's ancient artifact fragment? Fallen Beauty felt that Yu Yang was really daring and quick to act. That Raven must have treated the ancient artifact fragment as his precious treasure, yet he was able to steal it without anyone knowing. She had to admit that if this brat changed his profession to become a thief, many thieves would starve to death. Who said that I stole Ravens? Yu Yang laughed. No. Fallen Beauty was surprised. Other than Raven, could it be that there was someone else who possessed the ancient artifact fragment? I guess not. If I only took one fragment back, no matter how small it was, it would not be enough to decorate everyone's black tortoise battle armor. Furthermore, Raven would easily notice it and become suspicious. Before Southern Demon King could finish her sentence, Yu Yang had already opened his palm. There were 12 ancient artifact fragments on his palm. They were dark purple in color. They contained a special kind of divine power. Although they were no longer controlled by divine sense, their nature was extremely beneficial to living beings. Everyone surrounded them in surprise. They couldn't help but cheer for them. With so many ancient artifact fragments, not only could they be used to decorate Yu Yang and Princess Sisai's black tortoise battle armor, they could also be made into accessories or bracelets for the impatiens, who were preparing to participate in the battle but didn't wear the black tortoise battle armor. No wonder Yu Yang gathered everyone to report the good news the moment he returned. It turned out that he had an unexpected harvest and couldn't wait to share it with everyone. Even Sickly Beauty and Yu Yu looked at each other and nodded. They secretly praised him. As for Princess Sisai, her face lit up with joy. She asked with a smile, "What happened? How did you manage to get so many ancient relics fragments in one go?" Yu Yang first made a guess expression, which made Princess Qian Qian angry. He then hurriedly revealed the answer. It's like this. There's a gladiator plaza on the suspending sky mothership. The galactic pirates gathered all the hostages and searched them. Their original intention was not to search for the ancient artifact fragments, but to search for the merchants' treasures. Some of the merchants were very resistant, but there were also quite a few who cooperated. I used my divine vision to observe the abnormality of a very cooperative bootlicker and secretly summoned the quintet seeking golden mice. In the arena, the abilities of all the non-living battle puppets were greatly enhanced. Even if they weren't enhanced, The quintet seeking golden mice could easily detect the fragments of ancient relics on that guy's body. Luohua Beauty was instantly amused. So you came here to steal? Yu Yang shrugged. It's just a small trick. At this moment, Princess Sisai suddenly frowned. If it was just one fragment, it could be considered smuggling. But now there's so many of them. There must be something strange about this. Yu Yang gently poured the dark purple fragment in his palm into her hand and agreed. That's right. There is a conspiracy brewing. I suspect that there is a powerful figure secretly supporting the space pirates in the dark. It is also this person who gave Winged Tiger, Raven, and the others the ancient relics fragments and the forbidden power. He even provided them with information about the Pelican, giving them the opportunity to hijack it. Otherwise, the space pirates alone would not dare to touch the Empyrean mothership. Of course, this person is definitely up to no good. He won't hand the Pelican over to the space pirates so easily. This Empyrean mothership might just be a framing device or some kind of conspiracy. When the space pirates drive the Empyrean mothership to a certain location, there will definitely be another battle. These ancient relics fragments are the backdoor that the person left on the ship. Princess Sisai was very smart and immediately understood. You mean that there are still people lurking on the ship, waiting for a chance to counterattack the space pirates? Yu Yang nodded. That's right. These ancient relics fragments are necessary for those lurking to restrain Winged Tiger, Raven, and the others. Fallen Beauty's expression turned grave. There are as many as 12 ancient relics fragments. Could it be that there are 12 experts like Winged Tiger or Raven on the ship? Furthermore, this is only what you discovered. There might be a second or third batch. Even if there isn't, it is hard to say that the person controlling the space pirates doesn't have other arrangements. I'm not sure if there is a second or third batch. What I can be sure of is that the strongest griffins, golden eagles, and even spears have not appeared. Yu Yang admitted that there were still many changes to the situation. Little San, you must be careful. Yu was a little worried. After all, there were 8 god-level experts in the Outer Mountains. They are just fake gods. Although Impatience's tone was filled with disdain, she was actually not as relaxed as she looked. She was not Queen Vivian Lee. She had not reached the level where she could look down on fake gods. If she had to fight one of them alone, she would not dare to say that she could win. If she had to fight 2 of them, she would definitely lose. Now that there were 8 of them, this battle was even more difficult than the battle against the evil deities in the Human Valley. The only consolation was that these 8 fake gods were not united. They appeared to be harmonious on the surface, but they were actually not. They were constantly fighting in the dark. If they could use some opportunity to split the 8 of them and defeat them one by one, it would be much easier. Impatience concluded, maybe this is our chance. With the help of Sickly Beauty and Yu. That night, Yu Yang embedded 12 ancient artifact fragments into the black tortoise battle armor. He also made the remaining fragments into pendants or bracelets and distributed them to Impatience and the others, who were waiting for an opportunity to fight. Without time to rest, Yu Yang seized the time to familiarize himself with these ancient artifact fragments, in case any accidents happened when the battle suddenly broke out. After confirming that the ancient artifact fragments were harmless to the human body, Yu Yang finally returned to the cabin of the hanging mothership, Pelican, with a peace of mind. Having not slept for the whole night, Yu Yang had no time to rest. There was a knock on the door outside. As soon as the door opened, the galactic pirate Spotted Duck, who acted familiar with him, barged in with a hot breakfast. You slept really well. I have called you 3 times. If Boss Winged Tiger did not ask me not to disturb you, I would have barged in because I was afraid that something would happen to you. I don't know what you like to eat, so I went to the kitchen and took some. Do you like it? Although he knew that the other party was trying to rope him in, Yu Yang could not help but feel touched. One had to know that the other party was a reckless pirate. To be able to do this, he really could not ask for more. Therefore, even though Yu Yang rarely thanked others, he could not help but nod at Spotted Duck. I have troubled you. Actually, I am very casual. I am not picky. Spotted Duck grinned. That's good. Ha! You don't have to be so courteous with me. Just tell me what you want to eat. Although the chefs on the ship are not as good as the famous chefs in the East God Nation's Full Flower House, if they put their heart into making 2 dishes, they can still barely be seen. Even if those fellows are useless, don't you still have me? In our kennel, your big brother's cooking skills are top-notch. It's just that I am not willing to serve ordinary people. Eat, eat, eat. Don't just look. I have already eaten. I think you are the only one on the ship who has not eaten yet. This spotted duck was probably Tripitaka's brother who was stranded in another world. He was even more talkative than an 80-year-old granny. Yu Yang felt dizzy listening to him, but he was too embarrassed to chase him away. Fortunately, after a while, a galactic pirate came to look for the team leader, Spotted Duck. After whispering to him for a long time, Spotted Duck's smiling face darkened. In the end, he could not help but shout angrily, "What are you doing? You have clearly returned to our territory, and yet you still got the wrong direction? This is so embarrassing that I am too embarrassed to say that I am a galactic pirate. I actually got lost in my own home. Tell me, what is this all about? Piloting a suspended sky carrier for the first time? You still have the cheek to say that. There is someone who came to guide you for 3 months, and you have all kinds of navigation maps. You even simulated it once before. Now, you come and tell me that you got the wrong direction. How am I going to explain this to Boss Wing Tiger? Where's Pelican? Is that guy's brain full of dog sh*t? And to think that he patted his chest and said that it was absolutely safe. Now, he has caused such a mess for us. What is he trying to do? The black-cloaked man, Raven, suddenly floated over and snorted coldly. Calm down, Spotted Duck. Things have already happened. What we should be thinking about now is how to deal with it, not complaining. The Gannet changed its direction and deviated from its original track. Clearly, someone is playing tricks. Otherwise, it would not have happened. As he spoke, he looked at Yu Yang, who was leisurely eating his breakfast. In fact, in the end, Raven was still staring at Yu Yang with an extremely sharp gaze. Yu Yang put down the breakfast in his hands, smiled, and looked back without any guilt. Leader Raven, your gaze doesn't seem too friendly? The black-cloaked man, Raven's voice was even colder than ice. He snorted and said, I only want to know one thing. Where did you go last night? Spotted Duck called you for supper last night, but you did not respond at all. Only now did you return. If you don't mind, I hope you can explain a little. Yu Yang shook his head. I don't want to explain, but I can tell you one thing. You are wrong to suspect me. I've already investigated you. The black-cloaked man, Raven, suddenly took out a piece of paper that was densely written with words. He waved it and snorted coldly. Young and full of potential trainee divine attendant you Titan, I have already found out everything about you from your comrade, Grasshopper. Can you tell me why you were recognized by Malpadi and became a probationary god's servant with the identity of newcomer? There has never been such an exception in the past 1,000 years. These days, your whereabouts have been secretive and strange, including when you boarded the Pelican hovering mothership. You also hid it from your comrade, Grasshopper, and did all kinds of inexplicable actions. Can you give me a response? If you don't want to answer my question, does that prove that you are guilty? Although I don't have direct evidence to prove that you were involved in misguiding the Pelican's voyage, it will be hard for you to clear your name. If you don't confess the truth, I'm afraid we will temporarily classify you as a suspect. If I'm classified as a suspect, will I have to move out of this cabin and stay in a small dark room? Yu Yang suddenly asked. That won't be necessary. However, before we find out the truth, please don't leave this room. Furthermore, you must accept the supervision of our personnel. The black-cloaked man, Raven, smiled. If you are really an important person, I believe that Malpadi and the others will definitely come back to save you. Since it's like this, then it doesn't matter. I also don't intend to leave this place. You can slowly investigate this so-called truth. Yu Yang picked up his breakfast that was still warm and started eating. At this moment, Wing Tiger and another leader, Wind Eagle, were standing at the entrance of the luxurious cabin that Yu Yang had stayed in before. If Yu Yang was here, he would be able to recognize this Wind Eagle. He was the impoverished drunkard that he saw in the hotel that day. A person flew over from a faraway passage. It was the middle-aged man wearing a fiery red luxurious fur who had shouted at Yu Yang to stop the huge man from using violence. He was also one of the 3 leaders of the Falling Sky Pirates. Flamingo. This flamingo flew over and shouted hurriedly. Xiao Tian. Chinli, why did you call me here? I'm very busy right now. I really don't have time to look around the luxurious cabin. Heavens, what happened? Who did this? Impossible. What kind of power is this? Is it a beast or an inherent skill? Maybe it's divine power. The impoverished drunkard, Wind Eagle, was not drunk at all. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. Although I don't know how he did it, I can confirm that he is not the one who misguided the Pelican's course. Because if he wanted to, he could totally sink the Pelican and make everyone on the ship fall and perish together with the ship. Winged Tiger, who was dressed like a soldier, let out a long sigh and said, "This little friend is really an interesting little fellow. I even suspect that the person who misguided the Pelican's course isn't targeting us, but him. If that's really the case, what should we do?" The impoverished, burly man, Wind Eagle, asked. "That young man has potential, but he's really too young. In a few hundred years, he might be able to break out of this deadlock. It's still too early now. If he gets targeted, then everything will be over. A young man like him will definitely not be allowed to grow. They will kill him at all costs." Winged Tiger clenched his fist and waved it heavily. "I can't say what you guys will do, but I've decided to protect him." "Can you protect him?" Hearing this, Wind Eagle's voice trembled a little. "Whether we can protect him or not, we have to protect him. We definitely can't do nothing. Even if there's only a sliver of hope, I'll still stake it all." Winged Tiger took a deep breath and nodded solemnly. "Yes, rather than being a thief who can't see the light of day for the rest of our lives, we might as well stake it all." Flamingo, who was dressed gorgeously, revealed a sorrowful yet resolute smile. "Although it's very foolish to stake our lives for a stranger, I hope that our descendants will be able to be proud of us, scum. After all, this is a battle where we're sacrificing ourselves for others. Maybe that person's target isn't him. Maybe he's really targeting us." Wind Eagle's gaze regained its sharpness. "In this round, we might have become someone else's chess pieces. We have been schemed against from the start. I hope you're right." Winged Tiger expressionlessly closed the door and said in a deep voice, "If you're right, then that would be our greatest fortune. Unfortunately, your fortune ends here." A voice that made one's hair stand on end, like a venomous snake, eerily rang out from outside the tunnel. Chapter 1144. The sky suspending mothership, which was moving forward at a high speed, suddenly came to a halt, as if it had come to a sudden stop. Everyone on the mothership couldn't help but rush forward. Those with poor reflexes couldn't stop themselves. They fell on the deck. Most people came to themselves and looked at the items piled up on the mothership falling to the ground in astonishment. Such a scene was rare. The Pelican probably hadn't experienced such a thing many times since it had been put into service. Raven, who was watching over Yu Yang, changed his expression. He quickly jumped to the door and observed the enemy. Then he shouted at Spotted Duck and the other space pirates who were panicking, "Keep an eye on him. Don't let anyone get close. I'll go out and check the situation. I'll be back soon." It's most likely a counterattack from the Griffin, the Golden Condor, and Malpati. If Malpati really comes to save him, take him with you and leave on the shuttle. The Flower Duck watched as the Raven disappeared in a flash and hurriedly closed the cabin door. Then he smiled at Yu Yang and said, "Brother, I'm not suspecting you, but it's not safe to go out now. Let's wait for the news here." Yu Yang was speechless. "Can't you guys use your brains? If they were really enemies, would they cooperate like this? Even a door couldn't be closed. Of course, one shouldn't slap a smiling person. Huaya had treated him quite well, so he couldn't get angry. Raven rushed to the Gladiator Square as fast as she could, but she was stunned by the bloody scene in front of her. In front of her, countless corpses with broken limbs and twisted bodies were piled up one after another. The corpses were piled up like a mountain. Blood was flowing like a river on the ground. The guards, border soldiers, merchants, and space pirates who were temporarily detained here had all been killed here. There were tens of thousands of corpses piled up indiscriminately. The ground was covered with broken arms and heads. The smell of blood was so strong that even Raven, who was used to seeing death, vomited on the spot. Ugh! Raven was trembling as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Now, he understood a little. Everything that had happened was a conspiracy. Those hidden enemies didn't care about the lives of the hostages at all. In fact, they were prepared to use the lives of tens of thousands of hostages to frame them. This pelican that had been dyed red by blood would become an irrefutable piece of evidence in the future, and the targets, the experts whose interests had been affected, would vent all their anger on the space pirates. This time, the space pirates were facing a calamity. What was even more frightening was that the conspiracy had already been formed. The Star Pirates could no longer defend themselves. He had to report this matter to Winged Tiger, Wind Eagle, and Fiery Bird immediately. Now was not the time to hijack the Gannet and use it as a base to expand. Now was the time to escape. From now on, the Galactic Pirates would become the target of the Master God Powerhouse's anger. If they did not leave as soon as possible and went into hiding, the space pirates would probably go extinct forever. Roar! A pained howl sounded from afar. It was like the howl of an injured beast that was being chased by hunters. It's Pelican. He's being attacked from all sides. This means that the cockpit has already fallen. The elite guards of the Galactic Pirates, they're all dead. That's why the Gannet has stopped. Raven became calm in the face of extreme danger. He first suppressed the urge to rush to the rescue and first rushed to the skylight that led to the outer side of the ship. He looked at the scene outside and discovered that the gigantic Gannet had been forced to stop in a chaotic and dangerous meteorite zone at some point in time. Raven's eyelids twitched. He took a deep breath and suppressed all the negative emotions in his heart. He activated his movement technique and rushed toward the place where he had heard the pained howl. A blood-soaked giant covered in cuts and bruises was frantically resisting the enemies that besieged him. The enemies surrounding the giant were extremely cunning. They did not attack head-on at all. They used the hunting method. One or two of them would distract the giant while the others would ambush him. Although this kind of wolf pack tactic couldn't kill in a single strike, it was extremely effective. It brought out a great deal of power, making the giant run for his life. He couldn't take care of his head and tail at all, so he couldn't make an effective response at all. If this continued, he wouldn't even be able to fight against a single enemy before dying on the battlefield. The most terrifying thing was that the enemies were much faster than the blood-soaked giant. It was impossible for the blood-soaked giant to fight and escape at the same time. If Raven had not arrived in time, the blood-soaked giant would definitely be dead. It was only a matter of time before he fell. Bastard, get out of my way! Raven rushed to the battlefield like a black bolt of lightning. His cloak spread wide like an iron wall as he helped the blood-soaked giant resist the sneak attacks of two cunning enemies. At the same time, Raven waved his cloak with force and produced an irresistible taboo force that sent the sneak attackers flying more than 10 meters away. The two of them spat out blood from the impact and were seriously injured. It's Raven. Good, just in time. This saved me the trouble. I thought I would have to spend a lot of effort to capture him. I didn't expect the Earth Mouse to come out by himself. In the darkness far away, another enemy was clapping his hands in praise. Blackleaf, you fool. You're usually very smart. Why are you so stupid now? What kind of situation is this? Why did you still come here to die? Can't you see that I'm already finished? Not only can you not save me, but you've also lost your life. Do you want me to die with everlasting regret? Get out of my sight while I still have a bit of strength left. Get as far away from me as possible. I'll be counting on you for revenge in the future. When the blood-soaked giant saw Raven, not only was he unhappy, but he was also very angry. He scolded Raven to his face. Let's go together, Santon. Although we don't usually see eye to eye, now is the time to fight side by side. You can't do without me. If I were trapped here, you would also come to save me. Raven pressed his hat down to cover his eyes. He stood in front of the blood-soaked giant indifferently. You're a bandit and you still care about loyalty? F***CK. No wonder you have no future. The blood-soaked giant scolded, but as he scolded, tears began to fall. His tears mixed with blood. They turned into tears of blood and flowed down the giant's cheeks, which had been cut by many sharp weapons. In the darkness, someone clapped his hands and praised loudly. So touching. What a pair of good brothers with a deep friendship. TSK, 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 TSK. How enviable. Why don't I, the flying corpses, have such good brothers? At this time, another uninvited guest appeared in the darkness. He sneered, "Flying corpse, you want to enjoy your good brother's chrysanthemum, don't you? Do you deserve to talk about brothers?" The man who was clapping his hands was choked. He laughed dryly and said, "I just like to enjoy chrysanthemums. It's better than you, a hungry ghost, eating people. At the very least, I've never seen a person who looks uglier than you when you eat a human head. I've never heard of another person who finds eating people's faces as the greatest joy. Hungry ghost, calling you a pervert is simply a compliment." The uninvited guest was not angry. He laughed strangely. "Same here. I'm not a good person, and neither are you. We're both scum. Otherwise, why would we work together? This is called birds of a feather flock together. Flying corpse, don't think that you're so great, bright, and righteous." Flying corpse and hungry ghost. Upon hearing this, Raven and the blood-soaked giant's expressions changed drastically. Raven had heard too many rumors about these two fellows who would bite each other the moment they met. Both the flying corpses and hungry ghost were the subordinates of the left marshal of the West deity nation, Goo Goo, who had the strength of a super divine general, had more than 1,000 experts under him. However, only 5 of them were memorable. They were Poisonous Maggot, Flying Corpse, Hungry Ghost, Dark Flame, and Ghost. These 5 evil scum were not only famous for their cruelty in Outer Mountain and Earth Valley, but also had the strength of a divine general. Ordinary people could not fathom them. Other than the 8 almighty gods and experts of super divine, general level and above, other warriors could not do anything to them. The worst thing was that these 5 scum were used to working together and were rarely alone. Basically, if one appeared, the other 4 would not be far away. Now that 2 of them were here, would the other 3, Poisonous Maggot, Dark Flame, and Ghost, be far away? The 5 scum besieged him. This time, it would be a disaster. Raven now completely understood why the tens of thousands of people in the Gladiator Square were slaughtered so quickly. The reason was because of these 5 scum. They killed people like flies and were guilty of countless crimes. Only the 5 of them would have such a cruel heart to slaughter tens of thousands of innocent lives. Wait a minute. The 5 scum came here. Why were only 2 of them after waiting for so long? Where did the other 3 go? Could it be? Raven suddenly thought of a terrible answer, and his body turned even colder. That young man, they must have killed that young man. That young man was the newcomer with the most potential in the Southeast Divine Kingdom. He might have been secretly trained by the Southeast Godlord. Now, if the 5 scum killed him, then this black pot would be carried by the space pirates forever, and they would never be able to remove it. Although the Southeast Godlord was furious that he had lost a pelican, the pelican could still be taken back, but the disciple that he had trained as a newcomer could never be redeemed after being killed. If that was really the case, then the space pirates were finished. The 8 divine kingdoms might also be in chaos because of this, and the underground valley and the mountains outside the mountains would enter the countdown of destruction in advance. And the one who had the last laugh might be the one who was hiding in the dark, sowing discord and causing misunderstandings among the various parties. Not good, we can't die. We must save someone first. We must let him escape from the pelican and spread the truth about this place. The more Raven thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. He shouted at the blood-bathed giant pelican, who was close to despair, "Kill our way out with me. We can't die now. If we die here, then everything will be over." "What did you say? I don't understand." The blood-bathed giant pelican clenched his fists. "But before I die, I will do as you say." "You are smarter than me. I think you are right." At this time, the cabin was silent. Everyone could hear their breathing. Yu Yang hugged his head with his hands, lying on the sofa with his legs crossed. His eyes were slightly closed. as if he had fallen asleep. On the other hand, Spotted Duck and the other space pirates were restless. Although they did not dare to make a sound, they all stared anxiously in the direction of the cabin door, trying their best to hold their breath, waiting for Raven to return. No matter how slow they were, they could smell the stench of blood that even the cabin door could not block out. They did not dare to imagine how many people had died outside to accumulate so much blood. This was because the blood had seeped into the almost completely sealed cabin door, slowly wetting a small part of the doorway. "Is anyone home?" Just when Spotted Duck and the rest were at their most uneasy, there was a soft knock on the door. Chapter 1145. The expressions of Spotted Duck and the other space pirates changed when they heard that. That was not Raven's voice. Not to mention Raven, no space pirate would speak in such a genteel manner, let alone joke around at such a time. Since it was not a space pirate or one of their own, there could only be one kind of person who was knocking on the door: the enemy. What should they do if they were discovered by the enemy? Should they fight their way out or defend the cabin? Both choices were difficult. It was impossible for them to fight their way out, and defending the cabin was obviously a dead end. What should they choose? While Huaya and the others were having a headache and hesitating, the person who knocked on the door had already solved this difficult problem. The person was so thin that even blood could only slowly seep through the crack of the door. Then, an almost transparent arm quickly stretched out, and it was so flexible that it easily found the button to open the door as if it had seen it with its own eyes. The transparent hand grabbed the button. It turned hard. Swoosh! The cabin door opened instantly and rose up quickly. A wave of blood surged into the room from the corridor outside. It covered the whole room like a mountain of water, soaking the ankles of Huaya and the others who were still standing there blankly, not knowing what to do. There was not one person standing at the door, but three. A middle-aged man who looked fair and chubby and had a kind face looked into the cabin and said with a gentle smile, "Winged Tiger, Wind Eagle, and Fiery Bird are not here. Griffin, Golden Condor, Malputty, and the rest also have their own missions. Other than that little friend, it seems that nobody is home. If that's the case, I'll go take care of something else. My two sisters, Ghost and Deathflame, should be enough. All right, I'll leave this place to you." Then, the middle-aged man bowed to everyone in the room politely. Then he left. If it weren't for the strange woman whose body flickered with ghostly fire, snorting in disdain, Spotted Duck and the others might have mistaken the kind-looking and courteous middle-aged man as a good person. However, as soon as the woman with ghostly fire said that, Spotted Duck and the others immediately trembled in fear. Their teeth chattered, and they couldn't control themselves. That was because the woman whose body was flickering with ghostly flames snorted, "Poison Maggot, you disgusting fellow. Why are you pretending to be the boss? Among us 5 villains, although we are slightly inferior to the other 3 in terms of killing methods and viciousness, in terms of strength, Sister Spectre and I still have a slight advantage. Isn't he just a little more experienced than us? You actually want to order us. You really don't know what you're talking about. 5 evildoers? Poisonous maggots? Ghost. There is also this strange woman whose body was flickering with will-o'-the-wisps." Even if Spotted Duck and the others were deaf, blind, and stupid, they could guess who their enemies were. If the strange woman whose body flickered with will-o'-the-wisps was faintly discernible, then the other woman standing next to her was completely transparent. The woman with long arms and legs was extremely skinny, but she was wearing a loose dress. Her entire body, including the loose dress, was transparent. If she stood still, it would be difficult for the eyes of an ordinary person to detect her existence. Only when she was moving could one barely capture the difference between the air and her body. This transparent woman had long hair covering her face. One couldn't see her face. Needless to say, she was one of the 5 evildoers, Ghost. As for the strange woman whose body flickered with ghostly flames, she was another famous one of the 5 evildoers, Netherflame. These 2 women, Ghost and Netherflame, were extraordinary villains. Spotted Duck had heard a secret rumor a long time ago, saying that these two women were actually immortal existences. Unless one was a god, there was absolutely no one in the world who could kill them. Even injuring them was extremely difficult. Their strength was already inferior to theirs, and now they had to face these immortal enemies. Other than desperation, Spotted Duck could only feel despair. Do we go in and invite them personally? Or do you want to come out on your own? Netherflame looked at Yu Yong, who was still pretending to sleep with his legs crossed, with great interest. Her voice was so sweet that it could drip honey. Our guests have been standing at the door for a long time. Master, aren't you going to invite us in for a cup of tea? Retreat. Spotted Duck clenched his teeth and squeezed out a word. A few of the galactic pirates who saw him as their leader hurriedly rushed to Yu Yang's side, preparing to carry him up and evacuate to the emergency escape channel in the cabin. As long as they opened the emergency mechanism, the cabin would split open and a shuttle would be waiting inside. Of course, no matter how fast they were, it would still take some time to open the mechanism and get on the shuttle. Would Netherflame and Ghost just stand by and watch? Spotted Duck would never have such an extravagant hope. Therefore, when he squeezed out the word retreat, he roared and pounced towards his enemies like a ferocious tiger. He dared to say that he had never been so brave in his life. His opponents were Netherflame and Ghost, two of the 5 great evildoers. Any one of them could kill him instantly with just a finger. Now, he was going to fight 2 of them alone. This was not just courage. There was also responsibility. This was a responsibility that Boss Winged Tiger and Raven had solemnly entrusted to him. Although he knew that he was powerless, in order to live up to their trust, Spotted Duck decided to go all out and complete it even if he had to risk his life. Just 1 second, and a few of his brothers would be able to open the mechanism, bring him onto the shuttle, and escape. Before the perfect plan in Spotted Duck's mind was completed, he felt his throat tighten, and he was lifted up by a single hand. It was Ghost. She used her extremely long arm to lift up Spotted Duck's sturdy body. In front of her, Spotted Duck, whose body was as sturdy as an ox, was no different from a small worm. Not to mention resisting, it was impossible for him to even struggle. At the same time, when Spotted Duck's subordinates were preparing to open the mechanism and move Yu Yang away, they were horrified to find that Netherflame, that woman, was already standing on top of the emergency escape route. That faintly discernible face of hers was smiling at the galactic pirates who were rushing over to open the mechanism. It was extremely terrifying, scaring the poor guy so much that he fell to the ground. The one hiding at the door, since you're already here, come in and have a seat. Yu Yang sat up and poured himself a glass of water as if there was no one else around. You still have the leisure to pay attention to others now. Netherflame was a little curious. I didn't want to care about this at first, but the sound of that guy's teeth chattering was too loud. It was so noisy that I couldn't sleep at all. Before Yu Yang finished speaking, half of his face stuck in from outside the cabin door. His face was filled with bitterness and fear. That's right, this was one of the few acquaintances of Yu Yang, Grasshopper. I didn't want to betray you at first, but that poisonous maggot stuffed a giant maggot into my mouth and said that if I didn't tell him the truth, he would let the giant maggot eat my organs and drill a big hole in my stomach. I really couldn't stand that disgusting thing. You don't know, that maggot's mouth was full of teeth. There were at least 1,000 of them, and all of them were like saw teeth. I really didn't want it to drill into my throat. Grasshopper had a sad face as he explained to Yu Yang that he had his own difficulties. Don't worry, it's not the first time I've been betrayed by you. I'm already used to it. Yu Yang comforted Grasshopper instead. Indeed, if a giant maggot that liked to eat internal organs was stuffed into one's mouth, no one would be able to stand this kind of torture. What was more terrifying than watching helplessly as a big hole was gnawed out of one's stomach? Not to mention that Grasshopper was originally a coward. He was a man made of iron. He wouldn't be able to stand it. Hence, Yu Yang understood Grasshopper very well. Moreover, even if Grasshopper didn't say it, the poisonous maggot, Netherflame, and the spirit could easily find them. Finding a traitor who betrayed his comrades was just an excuse to lower his fighting spirit and morale. If there's a next time, I definitely won't betray you. I promise to be brave this time. Grasshopper was so ashamed that he couldn't show his face. Thank you. I'm very happy that you have this intention. In fact, you should prioritize preserving your own life. After all, there's nothing more important than living. Yu Yang was as great as a saint. At the end of his speech, even he himself was almost moved. When did he become so great? It was a pity that he couldn't record it. Otherwise, it would be something to brag about. Huh, what an interesting little friend. I'm liking you more and more. Netherflame's face was faintly discernible. She giggled and asked, right now, your other friend is still in the hands of little Sister Spectre. She's very impatient. If you don't rescue him, she'll crush his throat. She might even tear his chest open with her hands and dig out his heart and lungs. She might even pull out his spine and use his bones to make a necklace. Do you have any good ways to convince my little Sister Spectre? She's famous for being introverted and taciturn. She's very difficult to convince. I have 2 ways to convince people. Yu Yang smiled and raised 2 fingers. One is to convince them quickly. The other is to convince them with righteousness and virtue. Let's try to convince them quickly. Netherflame expressed her interest. Convince them quickly. I'll quickly chop off the arms or legs of the person I need to convince. I'll let him or her understand that I'm a very persuasive person. Yu Yang's explanation made the few galactic pirates dumbfounded. To be honest, they had never seen someone as persuasive as Yu Yang using such a fast method of persuasion before. A very good method of persuasion. I like it. Netherflame clapped her hands and praised. She then asked, what about convince them with righteousness and virtue? Convince them with righteousness and virtue. I'll smash the head of the person I'm trying to convince them with 1 punch. I'll let them understand that I have the patience and sincerity to convince them with righteousness and virtue. Overall, when I used this method to convince others, the response I received was pretty good. At the very least, not a single person raised any objections. Yu Yang expressed that he usually liked to use this method to convince others. Gulp. The few galactic pirates couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Only now did they realize that compared to this Yu Yang who liked to convince people with righteousness, they were severely lacking in persuasion. What's the difference between these 2 methods? Netherflame frowned and asked curiously. Actually, the difference is quite big. The difference is in time. Yu Yang explained in a good mood. One method is faster and clear-cut. It won't waste everyone's time. The other method is more clear-cut and doesn't require any time at all. Now, which method do you want me to use to convince them? Is it to convince them quickly or to convince them with virtue? Chapter 1146. Suddenly, a cold voice came from the tunnel outside. TSK, who doesn't know how to talk big? Another voice immediately retorted, no, I think it's very interesting. I haven't heard such strong words in a long time. Furthermore, he's a rookie. Sometimes, the performance of a rookie can be forgiven. As long as he doesn't wet his pants, it's already a great success for a rookie. The cold man sneered at such words. Then let's see if he will wet his pants. He was not finished yet. He waved his hand, and 2 objects flew into the cabin. Pa. 2 objects of different sizes fell straight in front of Yu Yang. The space pirates next to Yu Yang took a closer look and were shocked to find that 2 people had fallen in front of them like salted fish. What scared them even more was that one of the 2 people was Raven, whom they had been looking forward to for a long time. Right now, Raven was seriously injured and on the verge of death. His black clothes and cloak were tattered, and he looked like a beggar. Raven was always so elegant and graceful in front of his subordinates. But now he was thrown to the ground by someone, unable to struggle or even move a finger. To be honest, Raven had never been in such a sorry state in his life. He was not unconscious, and his mind was still clear. But in front of his subordinates, he was helpless to struggle. He wished that he could die immediately so that he could avoid this humiliation in front of everyone. Next to Raven, the bloody giant was naturally Pelican. He was covered in wounds and looked as if he had been fished out of a red dye vat. He had been knocked out and was sleeping soundly on his back. There is no need to look at him to know that he was a fool who did not even know how he died. The space pirates rushed up and cried, "Lord Raven, what's going on? What's going on?" They did not understand, nor were they willing to believe that their invincible boss, he had been defeated. This reality was not something they could accept. Raven's lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. His heart was already in despair the moment he was easily defeated by the enemy. "Why are you crying? Are you crying for a funeral? Aren't you ashamed? They're not dead yet." Yu Yang roared and ordered the galactic pirates to drag the two of them behind him. He didn't pee his pants and could still give orders. "I win." Outside the passageway, a man clapped his hands proudly. "Is that so? Are you sure you won?" "That was just now, okay? Now he's about to pee his pants. I guarantee that in less than a minute, you'll see a completely different coward kneeling on the ground and begging us for mercy." The cold voice strode in. It was a tall, burly, and dignified middle-aged man. This person's face was full of seriousness, like a serious leader. Wherever he appeared, that place seemed to become a meeting hall. Whether it was from his eyes or his expression, it could be seen that this was a person of high authority who was very assertive and would not easily waver in his own opinion. "We're in charge of this matter. You'd better not interfere." Netherflame's expression was a little unhappy as he warned the man coldly. "What if I insist on interfering?" the tall, burly, and extraordinary man asked back. "Then I'll leave it to you." Netherflame looked at the man for a while and suddenly laughed. He shrugged his shoulders and said, "Who asked me and Sister Ghost to be women? Women are sometimes too stubborn and not likable. So, I'll leave this matter to you ostentatious men to handle. Sister Ghost, put him down. We'll stand aside and watch Hungry Ghost and Flying Corpse. We can also learn some experience." The transparent ghost seemed to be very unwilling, but after Netherflame's repeated requests, she still threw Spotted Duck away unhappily. Cough, cough, cough. Spotted Duck almost died. Once he was free, he immediately coughed nonstop, almost coughing his lungs out. The other galactic pirates quickly snatched him back. They pulled him back behind Yu Yang. Now, they could only hide behind Yu Yang to give them some sense of security. Although they had no confidence in Yu Yang, Hua Luo and the other galactic pirates were forced to get closer to Yu Yang. They did not know how strong he was, but at least in terms of his mannerisms and speech, this young newbie was not much weaker than them. So, they tried to trust him for the time being. Yu Yang swept a glance at the tall and sturdy hungry ghost that didn't look like an evil person at all. He then looked at the flying corpse that was slowly walking towards him from the cabin's passageway. However, it was extremely cautious and refused to enter the cabin no matter what. The flying corpse was wearing a long white robe. His hair was slightly reddish-purple. It was not combed intentionally, but it was still very smooth. In front of his long hair was a broad forehead of wisdom. His facial features were much more delicate and elegant than normal people. If it wasn't for the fact that Ming Hua had addressed him as Flying Corpse, Yu Yang wouldn't be able to imagine that such a person who looked like a spoiled prince would actually have such a terrifying name, Flying Corpse. This Flying Corpse was tall and slender. There was a hint of green in his eyes, which gave him a very personal charm. Noticing that Yu Yang was looking at him, he clapped his hands out of habit, laughed, and nodded. "It's really better to see than to know. I was a little confused at first. Raven is a smart and selfish guy. His jealousy is stronger than anyone else's. Why would he sacrifice himself to save an outsider? Now, I believe that you are indeed worthy of his sacrifice. A young man like you, once you grow up, will have limitless potential. So, no matter what kind of sacrifice, it is actually worth it." A murderous intent that was hard to fathom appeared on the solemn and dignified hungry ghost's face. Perhaps to destroy the beautiful things in the world. It was his innate desire to destroy those newbies with limitless potential who were still growing. The more the Flying Corpse praised Yu Yang, the stronger the killing intent in the hungry ghost's eyes. In the end, his sinister eyes were filled with killing intent. If that's the case, the hungry ghost interrupted the Flying Corpse's words. He stretched out his hand and pointed at Yu Yang. He snorted. "I'll reserve your face. I hope that you will struggle with all your might and use all your strength. This way, when I chew on your body, head and cheeks, I will feel more chewy. So don't disappoint me. He likes to eat people. Grasshopper hid behind Yu Yang, his whole body trembling as he reminded Yu Yang. He especially likes to chew on human faces. Ugh, 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 ugh. When Spotted Duck and the rest saw that Grasshopper had vomited, they couldn't help but feel their stomachs churning. What good taste! Chew on faces? Even Netherflame couldn't help but ridicule. It seems like I can't use quick persuasion on such a person. That would waste too much of everyone's time. There's no other way. I'll just use virtue. Who asked me to have enough patience and sincerity in persuading people to do good? Yu Yang expressed that he was a great negotiator. He had a deep passion for the cause of maintaining world peace and saving all mankind. The hungry ghost face was full of mockery when he heard Yu Yang's words. He didn't reply. It was because he was disdainful of Yu Yang's strength. Aren't you afraid that you'll lose your tongue? You're just a new bee without any strength, yet you dare to say such words? The hungry ghost, who despised Yu Yang in his heart, couldn't even wait for a second. He decided not to talk to Yu Yang, this rookie, anymore. He directly hooked his finger, provoking Yu Yang contemptuously. He was prepared to wait for the moment Yu Yang pounced on him, and then kill this brat on the spot with a single punch. Yu Yang smiled. His smile was as bright as the sun and filled with confidence. Seeing Yu Yang's smile, the extremely cautious flying corpse immediately retreated. At the same time, it warned its companion, Hungry Ghost, be careful, there's something strange. Before his words reached the hungry ghost's ears, Yu Yang had already moved. His speed didn't seem fast, but he slowly extended his hand forward and pressed it on the hungry ghost's face. Netherflame and Spectre, who were standing nearby on guard, immediately jumped to the left and right. Clearly, they felt uneasy about this strange attack and were unwilling to get too close to avoid being implicated. The hungry ghost's face was full of mockery. He stretched out his big hand and grabbed Yu Yang's hand. He was prepared to break this snail's hand in an instant, and then throw this rookie who was painfully lying on the ground at his feet. Finally, he would stomp on his head until it exploded. The next moment, in less than a 10,000th of a second, the mockery and contempt on the hungry ghost's face froze. Yu Yang's hand was still moving forward slowly in the air, but his real hand was already pressed on the hungry ghost's face. As the hungry ghost made a futile counterattack, Yu Yang slammed the hungry ghost's head heavily on the floor. Spotted Duck, Grasshopper, and the rest couldn't see the movements at all. Even Raven, Netherflame, Spectre, and Flying Corpse couldn't see all the moves clearly. They could only vaguely make out the gist of it. Rumble. The whole cabin was shaking. It was 100 times more shocking than a lightning strike. Everything in the cabin was blown into the air. Spotted Duck and the other space pirates were all swaying. After being blown into the air, Raven tried his best to adjust himself and landed safely. However, the blood-bathed giant, who was still sleeping like a dead pig, was thrown out like a mountain of meat. He first hit the roof of the cabin and then fell down heavily, burying a bunch of items that had been messed up by the shockwave. Only 2 elephant legs were left outside. On the other side, Netherflame and Spectre jumped up abnormally lightly and floated in the air, dodging the impact of this blow. The flying corpse outside retreated even further and looked at Yu Yang solemnly. The cautious flying corpse felt a great threat looming over him. Even though the current Yu Yang was still as weak as a new bee, he still had a friendly smile on his face, as if he was harmless to both humans and animals. Convincing people with virtue was a headshot. Spotted Duck and Grasshopper already knew Yu Yang's negotiation method. Now they saw the effect. When the negotiation method of convincing people with virtue was used, the hungry ghost's head really exploded. Furthermore, it exploded completely into a pile of mush that no one could distinguish. That dignified face no longer existed. Brain juice splattered everywhere. All kinds of skull fragments and rotten flesh were scattered all over the floor. It was unknown whether it was a chin or something else, but it fell on Grasshopper's shoulder. It was bloody and stinky. Grasshopper quickly brushed it off as if he had been bitten by a ghost. However, he couldn't help but feel disgusted and vomited. This negotiation method of convincing people with virtue is very good. I like it very much. Unfortunately, you use it on the wrong person. Netherflame's faintly discernible face revealed a mischievous smile. In this world, not everyone can be persuaded with virtue. For example, this hungry ghost in front of you can't. Before she finished speaking, the hungry ghost's headless corpse on the floor suddenly sat up. It used its hand to forcefully tear off the mush above its neck, leaving only a few earthworm-like blood vessels swaying. The headless corpse suddenly emitted a strange sound from its stomach. It sounded a little like the voice of the hungry ghost just now, and also a little like the sound of a suppressed fart. It had the unique feeling of leaking gas. Ugh, my head hurts. It's been a long time since someone made me so miserable. Damn it. How dare you trick me like this? Spotted Duck and Grasshopper's jaws dropped to the ground. Damn it. How could this fellow still be alive without a head? Could this fellow still be considered human? The headless hungry ghost, who was still alive and well, stood up straight and pointed its arm angrily at Yi-Yang. Don't think that you can be cocky just because you tricked me. I have an immortal body, an existence that can never die. It doesn't matter which family's brat you are. Since you dare to hit my head, I'll teach you a lesson. The mountains outside the mountains are the world of us adults. It's not a place where a brat like you can play. Io, you really scared your daddy to death. Yu Yang patted his chest and made a frightened gesture. He then shrugged his shoulders and sighed helplessly. You can still live without a head? That's true. But then again, it seems like this head is just a decoration. I've heard of brainless idiots many times, but this is the first time I've seen one. The world is so big, there really are all kinds of people. Even a brainless idiot can live. What can I say? No, I have to stand further away. Idiocy might be contagious. Chapter 1147. Hungry Ghost did not speak again. His body suddenly emitted a thick smoke. Smoke rose up and covered the entire cabin space. The originally faintly discernible figure of the nether flame became more obvious in this smoke. The transparent body of the specter seemed to have turned into a solid body, which was very strange. The flying corpse that retreated to the outside of the passage seemed to dislike this smoke. He frowned and retreated another 10 meters, but his eyes were as sharp as arrows, watching for any movement in the cabin. In the cabin, the black smoke became denser and denser, and in the blink of an eye, it was dark. One could not see their fingers in front of them. In the darkness, Hungry Ghost's voice was no longer the previous sound of leaking air, but became clear again. Boy, you have the power to destroy in an instant. There must be someone behind you. Is it the divine power that the Southeast God Lord gave you? No one of you are so arrogant and fearless. However, with just a little bit of divine power, you want to act like a tyrant in the outer mountains? That's too laughable. You, who has obtained a few divine pets, might have never thought about what your weakness is. Let me, as senior with long experience, tell you. Your weakness is your body. There is nothing wrong with my body. Eon did not think there was anything wrong with his body. It is the same taboo power, but you did not fuse with it. Instead, you used external suppression. Once I take away your divine crystal fragment, you will immediately explode and die. Of course, before that, I can easily kill you 100 times. Hungry Ghost was very clear about how to deal with people who use taboo power. For example, Raven. Under the suppression of the ancient fragment, Raven could almost fight evenly with Hungry Ghost with the taboo power on the black cloak. However, it was still an external object. Once the Hungry Ghost removed the ancient artifact fragment pendant that was used to suppress the taboo power, Raven would quickly revert from a super expert to his original strength. He would be weakened by more than 100 times. At this time, even if he wanted to use taboo power to self-destruct, it would be impossible because Hungry Ghost, who was familiar with everything, had already restrained him. In Hungry Ghost's heart, this rookie was also the same. He used taboo power. His attack power would reach such a terrifying level. and he could easily blow his own head off. But no matter what, there was only one possibility for someone who used forbidden power and did not undergo any physical changes, and that was to suppress it externally, such as divine power or divine crystal shards. For example, Raven and Pelican were the latter. The arrogant young man in front of him was probably not only the latter, but also the former. In this newbie's body, it was likely that the southeastern divine lord or some other almighty being had left some divine power in his body to protect him. That was why this newbie was so fearless. This was not the first time Hungry Ghost had to deal with such a person. In Earth Valley or Outer Mountains, any newcomer with potential would be welcomed. However, what no one knew was that once a newcomer with potential joined a faction, it was highly likely that they would be assassinated or destroyed. Without the protection of a super expert, it was practically impossible for them to grow. Even Hungry Ghost himself had killed a few of these newcomers with such potential. Not to mention the other villains of the 5 great villains. Killing such a newcomer with potential was much more meritorious than snatching a pelican goose from a suspended mothership. A suspended mothership could be built, but newcomers with potential were rare. Even if there was one, it might not belong to him. Hungry Ghost was sure that if he killed this newbie, he would be rewarded handsomely when he returned. Maybe even the Western Divine Lord would give him a special reward. Be careful. The seriously injured and weak Raven spat out with difficulty. He wanted to remind Yu Yang that he had also failed in such smoke. It's done. You can die now. Hungry Ghost's voice became louder and louder, and the black smoke in the cabin gradually thinned and dissipated. In front of everyone's eyes, Hungry Ghost's figure reappeared. Now his head had returned to its original state at some point. What was even more strange was that not only did his head recover, but another head of the same size grew on his shoulder. Yu Yang blew up his head, and in less than a minute, he grew 2 new heads in the black smoke. Spotted Duck and Grasshopper were dumbfounded. This guy was not human. He really wasn't human. Even Raven, who was so weak that he could barely breathe, shook his head. He felt that his defeat was not unjust. How could a freak like Hungry Ghost win? No wonder the legend said that unless a god personally made a move, it was impossible to kill the 5 evildoers. Be careful. This time, it was not Raven who shouted, "Be careful," but the flying corpse standing far away outside the tunnel. Question mark. The Hungry Ghost was completely baffled. Who are you telling to be careful? He, who had already unsealed the forbidden power in his body, was already immortal. Aside from God, who could kill him? Why is he telling me to be careful? What did flying corpses mean? Deathflame didn't shout for him to be careful. She wasn't on the same team as Hungry Ghost. The more unlucky Hungry Ghost was, the happier she was. After the flying corpse shouted to be careful, the Hellfire retreated out of the passageway with a whoosh. Even Ghost, who was the most stubborn of them all, he also slid out silently. Their actions were as strange as small animals avoiding a strong enemy. Could it be that the Southeast God, Lord, personally came to look after this rookie? How could this be possible? According to the 8 Gods Alliance, no god would interfere in the matters of guidance. No matter how talented a rookie was, he could only be secretly trained and couldn't appear in person. How could the Southeast God, Lord, appear in this place? But if it wasn't him, then why were the flying corpse, Hellfire, and Ghost so cautious? Hungry Ghost had a thought and kept all the smoke away, especially when he kept the smoke that shrouded the enemy. Originally, he wanted to use the smoke to play cat and mouse. Now he just wanted to see clearly. What exactly happened to this rookie that made the flying corpse and Hellfire feel uneasy? Yu Yang was still standing in the same place. He didn't move a single step. However, on the outside of his slender body, there was a special dark purple battle armor that was almost black. On this heavy armor, there were mysterious runic circles that no one present could recognize. Every runic circle was resonating with each other. Before the will of the owner was activated, they were as silent as the eternal and unmoving laws of nature. A kind of law power that was extremely hard to sense was connected on it. No one knew what it was pointing to, but no one knew what kind of divine wisdom it was pointing to. This special battle armor had a novel style and an extremely mysterious design. Even Raven, who was familiar with all the weapons and armors in the world, had never seen this kind of battle armor. It was a completely new existence. This kind of armor had never existed in the Outer Mountains. Even the 8 gods had never worn armor made of this kind of material. God Destroyer Secret Gold. Among the people present, whether it was Hellfire, Ghost, Flying Corpse, Raven, or even Spotted Duck and Grasshopper, who had not seen much of the world, they could all tell at a glance what material this battle armor was made of. It was God-destroying secret gold. The entire pelican of the suspended sky carrier was made of this material. There was no difference at all. It was a special material that even the gods couldn't destroy easily. Using God-destroying secret gold to make the suspended sky carrier was a secret that only the gods knew. Moreover, this method was created by the 2 fallen gods, Tai-Yin and Bing-Li. Apart from a suspended sky carrier, no one in the God Kingdom or any force in Outer Mountain could use God-destroying secret gold to make something else. Now, what appeared in front of everyone was a very novel and unique battle armor. How'd he do it? Everyone's hearts were filled with confusion. What made the Flying Corpses and Raven the most speechless was that this brat had actually imprinted all kinds of rune arrays on the God-destroying mysterious gold. Unless it was a god, no matter what kind of power one used, it was impossible to leave a mark on the God-destroying mysterious gold. Since ancient times, it had been known as something that could not be destroyed except by gods. But now, there was a newbie imprinting runes on it. Just how'd he do it? Was it talent? Was it a battle beast? Or some other kind of power? Seeing Yu Yang wearing such an armor, Hungry Ghost was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Isn't it cool? Yu Yang took out a helmet and put it on. Then he pulled down his mask. Now, even if 10 divine generals ganged up on him, it wouldn't stop him from having a sexy breakfast. God-destroying secret gold was a material that even the gods had a headache over. It contained natural rules that could at least weaken the power of any living being in the world by 100 times. If it was made into a battle armor, the enemy wouldn't even need a fight to cry. It wasn't that no one had thought of using it before, but all of them had failed. Hungry Ghost never thought that he would be so unlucky to meet an opponent that he had never met in 10,000 years. A young man wearing a god-destroying secret gold battle armor that was densely covered with mysterious runes. If he hadn't boasted earlier, he would have wanted to retreat. There was no point in attacking a person wearing a god-destroying secret gold battle armor. Not to mention that this young man could use forbidden power. Don't think that I can't do anything to you. Hungry Ghost looked at Flying Corpse outside the passage and found that this cautious guy had already retreated more than 50 meters. He was extremely dissatisfied. Why did I have to rush ahead and be the pathfinder for you? I'm leaving. Flying Corpse didn't want to fight with Yu Yang anymore. He would believe it even if someone said that this newbie was the illegitimate son of the Southeast Divine Master. He even felt that this newbie might have an even greater background. If he were to touch such a person, not only would he not be able to harm him, he would also invite a fatal disaster. Now that Hungry Ghost was fighting with this newbie, it had nothing to do with him. Why should he stay here and not please either side? With Hungry Ghost's idiotic behavior, it was very likely that he would fight to the end. It would be terrible if he dragged him down with him. With this thought in mind, Flying Corpse couldn't care less about brotherhood. What was brotherhood? Could it be eaten? Who would accompany an idiot like Hungry Ghost to death? Flying Corpse waved at Yu Yang and smiled. Little friend, we met because of a misunderstanding, but a wise man doesn't have doubts. Flying Corpse will bid farewell here. We will meet again. His words didn't sound like a greeting to an enemy, but a farewell to a friend. Hungry Ghost was so depressed that he almost vomited blood on the spot. Not only did you not have any brotherhood and leave, you even wanted to draw a line in front of everyone and express goodwill. You were the good guy. What was I? Not only was I unlucky, I was also tricked by my teammate. Before Hungry Ghost could scold Flying Corpse, Netherflame also laughed and said, "We are also wise men, and we don't have any enmity with this little friend. We were just curious and passed by to watch the fun. No problem. We won't interfere. You guys fight slowly. This time, Hungry Ghost couldn't hold it in anymore and shouted, "What are you guys doing? Do you think I will lose for sure?" Netherflame spread his hands. "Anyway, I don't think you can win. A wise man knows better than a fight when the odds are against him." Hungry Ghost wasn't a fool. Seeing that flying corpse had slipped away and Netherflame and Ghost were watching his misfortune with great interest, he immediately lost his will to fight and wanted to retreat. However, he still stubbornly said, "Wearing such a turtle shell, it's so cumbersome. Other than being able to withstand attacks, it's useless. I have played enough today. I will let you go for now. If you dare to be arrogant next time, I can kill you with one finger." Hearing this, even the expressionless Ghost couldn't help but show a look of disdain. What did it mean to die with only one mouth left? This was it. Hungry Ghost's body emitted thick black smoke, which instantly filled the cabin. Using the cover of the smoke, he retreated out of the cabin at lightning speed. Ghost seemed to want to move, but Netherflame, who was standing beside her, shook his head. When Hungry Ghost passed by them, he was also secretly on his guard, deeply afraid that these two women, who usually didn't see eye to eye, would play tricks on him at this critical moment. Fortunately, they didn't make a move. Hungry Ghost rejoiced in his heart and immediately sped up, trying his best to escape from this cabin that had made him so unlucky and humiliated. "Did I say you can leave?" Just when Hungry Ghost thought he had escaped safely, a voice as clear as spring came from outside the cabin door. Then, a hand that seemed slow but was so fast that Hungry Ghost couldn't react at all. It pressed on the back of one of Hungry Ghost's two heads. It was the same action as before, except that one pressed on his face and the other pressed on the back of his head. In the next second, Yu Yang, who was wearing the black tortoise armor, appeared in a flash and directly pressed Hungry Ghost down, smashing him heavily onto the floor. Other than Hungry Ghost, everyone heard Yu Yang say, "I never believe that there is an enemy in this world that I can't convince. My negotiation method of persuading people with virtue has never failed before, and this time is no exception." Chapter 1148. In the arena, countless maggot men stood up from the mountain of corpses. Some of them were similar to ordinary people, except that they were blood red or pitch black. However, some of them were very different in size. Not only were they more than 10 times taller than a human, they also had all kinds of sharp teeth, horns, long noses, and thorny arms. Some of them even had the appearance of monsters and did not look like humans at all. They looked disgusting and terrifying. Thousands of maggot men parasitized the mountain of corpses and matured. Then, under the command of the leader of the 5 evildoers, Poison Maggot, they surged out violently. They quickly rushed to various parts of the sky, suspending mothership. They searched for survivors who might be hiding. Very soon, the survivors hiding in the secret rooms were discovered by the maggot men, who had a keen sense of smell. They surrounded and attacked them, or gathered their strength to break in and tear the pitiful survivors apart. Spotted Duck and Grasshopper were running frantically. They were running in a panic, and a large group of maggot men were chasing closely behind them. They were one of the survivors who had been found by the maggot men. Yu Yang, who originally had the ability to protect them, had already left the cabin with Raven and the bloody giant pelican, who were heavily injured but had regained the power to use the ancient artifact fragment. They went to welcome the 3 pirate bosses, Winged Tiger, Wind Eagle, and Fiery Bird. Although he had easily defeated Hungry Ghost and sealed him in the demon's subduing tower, it did not mean that Yu Yang would let his guard down. Hungry Ghost's strength was only one of the weakest of the 5 evildoers. He was not as strong as Hellfire and Spectre, and his intelligence was not as good as the Flying Corpses and Poison Maggot. Other than his perverted hobbies and vicious heart, Hungry Ghost could only be ranked at the bottom of the 5 evildoers. As for an evil expert like him who could easily defeat Raven and Pelican, he was just a small pawn of the 8 godly kingdoms. Not to mention the 8 godly masters, he was not even worth a fart when compared to the various marshals who had the strength of a godly general. The enemy of my enemy is my ally. Regardless of his considerations or the need to conceal his identity, Yu Yang felt that rescuing winged tiger, wind eagle, and fiery bird was a good thing. Before he had a clear understanding of the 8 great divine master strength, Yu Yang did not want them to focus all their attention on him. Unless there was no other way, he wanted to keep a low profile and explore the outer mountains. Once he had obtained all the information on Outer Mountain, he would challenge him again. It's not too late. Winged tiger, wind eagle, and fiery bird are really being held up by the Griffin Marshal, the Golden Condor General, and Mount Paudi's envoy. Yu Yang had a bad premonition. He felt that things weren't that simple. Although Yu Yang's senses were usually far from Princess Sisai's, who possessed the 6 records' inherent skill, his battlefield intuition and judgment ability were the highest in battle. He was actually on par with Princess Sisai, and even surpassed her at certain moments. We've seen the 5 great evildoers. It can't be them. Other than them, who else could it be? Pelican retorted with a buzzing voice. Until now, he still could not accept the fact that this newbie was a super expert and had saved him. If the one behind the 5 great evildoers is here, then things will become very bad. Raven sighed worriedly as he flew forward. Isn't it Shisha Nation's left marshal, Gugu? He has always been at odds with Griffin and Golden Condor. As long as he appears here, Griffin and Golden Condor will definitely be suspicious. They might even attack Gugu directly. Pelican might look like a boorish person on the outside, and he usually did things rashly and impulsively. However, at critical moments, he could be trusted. He was a boorish person who was muddle-headed and astute when it came to important matters. On the surface, with his impulsive personality and low intelligence, it was impossible for him to accept the fact that a newbie like Yu Yang had saved his life. Raven was originally very worried, but in reality, when Pelican opened his eyes and saw the God Destroyer secret gold heavy armor that Yu Yang was wearing, he was secretly convinced. However, his mouth was still unconvinced. That may be the case, but the truth is unlikely to be reversed. Raven felt that the direction of the situation would only worsen and not turn for the better. Winged Tiger, Wind Eagle, and Fiery Bird's 3 bosses won't be defeated that easily. Perhaps they are rushing over to look for us. Once we meet up with the 3 bosses, we will kill our way out. Pelican maintained his optimism. This was also his personality. He would always think of everything on the bright side. Let's hope so. Raven wasn't an optimist and couldn't be that optimistic. There's a commotion. Yu Yang sensed a commotion in front of him. When the 3 of them stopped and made some preparations, they saw countless maggot men swarming out of the passageway in the spaceship, filling up the entire passageway. Many maggot men couldn't move on the floor, so they climbed to the ceiling or the 2 sides of the passageway, increasing their speed as they chased after them. In front of these maggot men, there were a few soldiers and merchants who were scared out of their wits as they scrambled forward to escape. Slightly slower, they turned into countless pieces of flesh and blood as they were devoured in an instant. The remaining 2 soldiers didn't have the courage to resist. Even though they were holding on to their weapons, they absolutely didn't dare to turn back and fight. They ran for their lives, turning from another passageway and running straight towards Yu Yang. Raven originally didn't want to care about these survivors because he couldn't protect himself. He couldn't care about others. However, in the crowd of survivors, he saw a mother and daughter with tears streaming down their faces. They were lagging behind the group. There was a maggot man with a bone hook on its back that looked like a scorpion tail. It was laughing sinisterly as it stabbed the mother and daughter with its bone hook, as if it wanted to strangle both of them with its tail. The mother used all her strength to dodge left and right. Even though she was already exhausted, she didn't give up. She desperately protected her daughter in her arms and ran forward. Raven's expression changed. He wanted to fly forward and save the mother and daughter who were about to fall into the mouth of the maggot man. Blackleaf, don't do such a stupid thing. Pelican hurriedly stopped him. Get out of my way. Raven was furious because he saw that because of Pelican's obstruction, he couldn't save her in time. The maggot man with the long tail instantly pierced through the young mother's body, piercing through her heart from the back and coming out from the front of her abdomen. That tail even slashed forcefully. The chest and abdomen of the young mother were completely cut open, and bloody internal organs splattered on the ground. No one dared to stop or turn back to save the mother and daughter. When the soldiers and merchants saw Yu Yang and the other two, they rushed over as if they had been given a new life, seeking the protection of Strong. When Raven was about to fly forward and save the daughter who was still under the mother's protection, Pelican once again blocked his way with his hill-like body. Pelican grabbed a corner of Raven's cloak and shouted loudly, "The 50 to 60,000 people on the ship are all dead. How many can you save? Even if you save her now, can you protect her? There are many stronger enemies in front of us. Even we might not be able to deal with them. How can Child survive? If you save her now, she will only live a little longer. If you insist on doing this, it will only increase her pain. Blackleaf, you should be more rational. Now is not the time to do this. You are smarter than me. You should understand these principles better than me." Raven roared in pain. Back then, Winged Tiger also did this. He saved me from death. Without him, I wouldn't be who I am today. Ask him why he didn't act rationally back then. The young mother, who was seriously injured and on the verge of death, held her daughter with her hands and tried to prevent the maggot man's tail from piercing her daughter. She lifted her precious baby high in the air, even though she knew it was impossible to save her daughter. Being able to protect her daughter for one more second was also her biggest wish. Seeing this, Raven almost burst into tears. "Mom, back then, my mom also protected me like this. I, Blackleaf, can't just stand by and watch. Saving her is saving myself and fulfilling my mom's wish. Santon, get out of my way." He shook his cloak with all his strength and directly shook off Pelican's huge body, like a bird flying across the night sky. Raven's body movement technique was extremely fast, and he directly pounced on the mother and daughter. However, it was too late. The long-tailed maggot man had already used its tail to drag the weak young mother in front of it. Its sharp claws were raised high, and before Raven could come to her rescue, it smiled cruelly and slammed down heavily. It was ready to destroy the baby that the young mother was desperately protecting in front of Raven. "No!" Raven cried in despair. It was as if he could see his young self being killed because he couldn't be saved. He. The maggot man seemed to enjoy the enemy's despair and pain. Its sharp claws slammed down heavily. However, the change of events was beyond everyone's expectations. The sharp claws that could easily cut the little girl into pieces not only didn't cause any damage, but also fell to the ground with a crack. The young mother, who had closed her eyes and was waiting for death, opened her weak eyes and saw a man in heavy armor standing in front of her. His body was emitting a mysterious glow, so peaceful and so warm. The young mother couldn't help but hand over the baby in her hand. She couldn't help but ask with tears of joy, "Are you the legendary Lord God? I beg you, have mercy on my daughter. Please give her a way to live." Although she came from a humble background, this isn't her fault. Yu Yang reached out and took the little girl who had fainted from shock. He nodded at the young mother who was about to die. "You are a great mother. Because of your protection, your daughter will be saved. It's not me, but you yourself who gave your daughter a new life. If you don't mind, I'm willing to raise her as my daughter." Raven flew over and stood beside Yu Yang, giving the young mother a guarantee. At the same time, he waved his cloak and punched the long-tailed maggot man into meat paste. When the maggot men saw such a powerhouse appear, they didn't dare to act rashly. They retreated and prepared to join forces to attack again. "Thank you." The young mother breathed her last with a look of relief. Although she was dead, she no longer had any worries in her heart. She died unusually peacefully. "Raven, you're crazy. Do you think you can stop the enemy by bringing a little girl? Give her to those soldiers and let them take her away. At most, we can only clean up this group of monsters for them." Pelican felt that if he brought a little girl with him, she would be a huge burden. If he really insisted on doing this, not only would he not be able to save her in the end, but everyone would also be trapped. "No, to me, she is me. I absolutely can't abandon her. Otherwise, I'll be abandoning my past self and I'll be letting down my mother who risked her life to protect me." Raven flatly refused and took the little girl in Yu Yang's arms, gently hugging her in his arms. "You're simply unreasonable." Pelican angrily grabbed the collar of Raven's clothes and roared. "These are completely different things, and now is not the time for you to be willful. Are you still going to save her? Go, but you must bring her with you." Raven gently wiped away the tears on the face of the unconscious little girl. "I'm so angry." Pelican was furious. He raised his fist and punched his own chest, as if he regretted having a friend like Raven. Yu Yang suddenly coughed. He wanted to remind the two of them not to forget his existence. When Pelican and Raven looked over, Yu Yang raised his right hand and summoned his grimoire. He smiled at the two of them and said, "If you don't mind, I can put her inside for a while. Don't worry, I definitely won't snatch your daughter away from you." Seeing this scene, Pelican and Raven didn't reveal a happy expression because the problem was solved. Instead, their faces were filled with shock. You actually have a grimoire? This is the legendary grimoire, right?" Yu Yang was speechless. The legendary grimoire? Could it be that no one in the outer mountains had a grimoire? Chapter 1149. When Yu Yang put the little girl into the grimoire world, Raven and Pelican were still in a daze. They couldn't recognize that this was a holy grimoire. They even mistakenly thought that all grimoires were so glorious and dazzling. When Yu Yang added the giant shadow to their bodies, the two of them felt that their strength had suddenly increased by more than 10 times. They were even more shocked. Raven looked at his hands in disbelief. After the giant shadow's buff, he found it hard to control his hands. He muttered to himself, "Is this the power of a summoning grimoire? This is the power of a guardian beast?" Pelican, the boorish man, also looked like he had lost his soul. Yu Yang was speechless. It was just a summoning grimoire. Was there a need to be so scared? If he saw a holy grimoire that was thousands of times more powerful, wouldn't he go crazy on the spot? Only a god's son has a summoning grimoire. Which god's son are you? Raven finally understood why Titan Yu was fearless against any enemy. It was because he was a god's son, a god's son. Naturally, he wouldn't be afraid of normal enemies. "No, I'm a normal person." Yu Yang asked him curiously, "Is there no one in the Earth Valley or mountain beyond mountain who has a summoning grimoire? How could a normal person have a summoning grimoire?" Raven and Pelican didn't believe Yu Yang's words at all. What Yu Yang didn't know was that there were very few warriors who entered the Earth Valley. Even if there were, they were extremely strong warriors. Once these people entered the Earth Valley, they would immediately be found out by the 8 gods' secret spies. After contacting them, they would be assigned to a god's son or hide their identity. If these strong warriors weren't willing to stay in the Earth Valley or mountain beyond mountain, the 8 god had already opened a shortcut to the 9th Heaven Valley, heaven beyond heaven, 10,000 years ago. Warriors who had a summoning grimoire wouldn't be able to compete with the 8 god son in the Earth Valley or mountain beyond mountain. That was why they had to leave the Earth Valley and return to the Heaven Realm or go to the 9th Heaven Valley. The Earth Valley or mountain beyond mountain. It was extremely rare for a grimoire holder to appear. If there was one, it would be someone with the identity of a god's child or someone else who was hiding their identity. It was almost impossible for normal people to come into contact with them. It was also because of this that warriors who possessed grimoires were especially mysterious and respected in the underground valley and the outer mountains. Even the powerful Raven and Pelican felt the same. They also felt that those who possessed grimoires were the god's sons who were second only to the god master. At first, they were still in disbelief. However, the giant shadow that Yu Yang gave them had completely convinced them. Other than taboo powers, what other powers could increase a person's strength by tens of times? That it could only be a guardian beast from summoning grimoire. Moreover, this kind of improvement, it was not as frightening as the forbidden power. It was completely harmless. How could Raven, Pelican, and the others still doubt the authenticity of the legend after witnessing and feeling the changes in their own bodies? On the contrary, they were even more convinced. "Roar, all of you scum, go to hell." His strength had increased by tens of times in an instant. and he didn't have to worry about being devoured. Pelican, this guy who had been beaten up miserably, finally had a place to vent his anger. He rushed towards the variant maggot men, like a fierce tiger pouncing into a flock of sheep, sweeping everything in his way. Originally, his strength was far superior to these variant maggot men. Even if the maggot men had the advantage in numbers, it was not enough to stop his charge. Now that his strength had increased by tens of times, how could the maggot men resist? You don't have to trouble yourself. Just leave these lowly maggot men to me. Yu Yang was just about to make a move, but Raven saw this and rushed forward hurriedly, cooperating with Pelican to start a massacre to vent his depression. Yu Yang turned around to look. Those soldiers and merchants had actually disappeared without a trace while they were blocking the maggot men. Since it was like this, he couldn't be bothered to care about the life and death of these selfish people. If one of them had turned back to help the young mother, she wouldn't have died here. Of course, Yu Yang didn't have the right or reason to ask them to do so. People could be selfish, but since those were selfish people, Yu Yang wouldn't take the initiative to stand out and meddle in other people's business. Let them be. Maybe they would be swallowed by another wave of maggot men in the next second. Maybe they would be lucky enough to escape. But this had nothing to do with Yu Yang. Everyone had their own way of choosing their own destiny. They could be selfless or selfish. On the surface, people were powerless to go against the heavens, but in reality, all their destinies were in their own hands. It was just that from the beginning, people didn't make the best choice for themselves. One wrong step. Every step after that was wrong. It could be said that the more they did, the more mistakes they made, the more mistakes they made. In the end, there was no turning back. Yu Yang's finger ignited a little nirvana flame, burning the body of the young mother who sacrificed herself to protect her daughter. In Yu Yang's spiritual sense, it was as if he could feel the young mother's soul saying goodbye to him, peacefully ascending to an unknown, mysterious world. Yu Yang knew that he couldn't save everyone on the ship, but if he really met them, it would depend on the situation. If it was really necessary, he definitely couldn't save them. The little fellow is asleep. Mistress, you will take care of her during this period of time? Don't worry. Hong floated out of the grimoire world, bringing a message to Yu Yang. At the same time, she requested to fight with him. In the human valley, there was no way to fight. Since the Earth Valley doesn't have the strict ancient code, the sisters should all think of a way to train. All right. After a few seconds of consideration, Yu Yang finally agreed to this request. This was also a good opportunity. In the Earth Valley, if they could fight with some strong warriors, then Red, Man, Future, Ika, and the others would grow faster. Without a strong opponent, there would be no challenge, no training, and their improvement would not be slow. Red, Man, and the others were all guardian war beasts. Unlike Princess Isai, they didn't have to worry about their safety at all. The only thing that made Yu Yang worried was that Ji Wuri had come to the mountain beyond mountain. It was not good to expose his strength to Ji Wuri too early. Of course, because of the growth of Duo, Jiang Ying, and Little One Li, Yu Yang was not afraid of starting a war with Ji Wuri. If not, he still had the Phoenix Sisters' secret trump card. Yu Yang just wanted to find the best opportunity to get rid of Ji Wuri, this arrogant guy. He must not let this chicken get the information and run away. If that happened, he would miss this golden opportunity. Red, Man, Ika, and the others all came out, and there was even a spirit of chaos following behind them. They did not appear in front of Raven and Pelican. Red and Man, Ika, and the Future instantly disappeared into the passageway inside the ship. Pelican did not sense anything, but Raven felt that it was a little strange. He seemed to sense several powerful forces appearing and disappearing in an instant. Could be that Titan was using some kind of summoning ritual? When he rushed back, Red, Man, and the others had already disappeared without a trace. Even the slowest of them, the spirit of chaos, who did not know how to conceal its aura, was already 1,000 meters away. What happened just now? Raven was a little uncertain because the energy disappeared too quickly. He was not sure if he was hallucinating. No. Yu Yang shook his head and waved his hand. Could it be an illusion because I can't control my body 100% after the blessing? Raven had no choice but to attribute it to this explanation. Whether it was him or Pelican, neither of them could adapt to the blessing of the giant shadow. This blessing not only increased the power by dozens of times in an instant, but it would also continue to increase as the body adapted and the will control system fused. Raven estimated that the maximum upper limit of this giant shadow was a blessing of 100 times. After some adaptation, he could now control less than 50 times, and Pelican was less than 30 times. This, in other words, if he could continue to adapt, then the final upper limit of the improvement would far exceed the current 50 times, reaching 100 times. Just as Raven was thinking about how to speed up the adaptation of this blessing, another large wave of maggots surged over. Raven was so excited that his blood was boiling. This group of monsters came at the right time. Just now, he hated that he could not find enough opponents to practice on. Now, wasn't it like giving a pillow to a sleepy person? Kill. At this time, Pelican was excited and roared like thunder. Without waiting for Raven to come up, they joined hands to resist the enemy and directly charged forward. After watching for a while, Yu Yang realized that no matter if it was the Pelican or the Raven, they didn't summon any beasts, nor did they have any battle skills that matched their strength. Although their battle skills had a certain level of discipline, they were still far from the current Tong Tian Tower's battle skills, not to mention those peerless secret skills that were passed down from ancient times. What exactly happened in the valley and mountain beyond mountain? How did it become like this? Without summoning beasts or combat skills, they were just fighting instinctively. Not to mention the warriors of Tong Tian Tower. Even the warriors of Heaven Realm were completely out of touch. Was this deliberately done by the 8 heavenly masters, or was it all lost after the battle between Tai Yin and Bing Li? Just as he was thinking, he suddenly realized that the golden beast, with Tao Tai, heaven-swallowing beast, and Star Sky Scorpion, was preparing to slip away in front of him. Really, who did they think they were? Did they think they could hide from him by being so sneaky? The golden beast was very small, but didn't they see the size of Tao Tai? It was a huge monster that weighed more than 10 tons and was comparable to a tank, yet they actually wanted to slip away quietly in front of him. Could they be more stupid? Yu Yang was furious. It's fine if you guys came out to cause trouble, but you actually dared to lie to us like this? He was sure that the golden beast and the others did not get permission from Princess Sisai or Sickly Beauty. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so sneaky. You are all idiots. Yu Yang ruthlessly slapped the butt of the golden beast that was leading the group. Woo! The golden beast was most afraid of him. It immediately pretended to be pitiful, looking at Yu Yang with its big, teary eyes. It looked as if it would cry if Yu Yang didn't agree to it. Tao Tai and Star Sky Scorpion also cooperated and pretended to be honest and obedient. Only the newly born heaven-swallowing beast, who had not learned how to be cunning from Hui Tai Lang, still retained a little bit of innocence. Be careful, I will sue you for acting cute. Yu Yang was not fallen beauty or an ant. He would not be soft-hearted just because this little thing pretended to be pitiful. The golden beast had no choice but to lower its head and receive the scolding. Tears welled up in its eyes. Fortunately, Yu Yang did not scold him for long. Raven returned after killing all the maggot men. Yu Yang did not have time to keep them, so he waved his hands to tell them to scram and not let others see them. The golden beast and the others were overjoyed and disappeared one by one. They were several times faster than their usual speed, making Yu Yang feel both angry and amused. When Raven came back, his face was full of confusion. He wanted to ask if something happened just now, but when he came back to take a look, there was nothing. He could only desperately suppress his curiosity. It was so uncomfortable. The mutated maggot men had suffered heavy casualties. As the master, Poison Maggot naturally sensed it. He rushed to Yu Yang's side at top speed, wanting to see what kind of enemy could actually kill so many of his subordinates in such a short period of time. Unfortunately, he did not go in the opposite direction. Before he could reach Yu Yang's battlefield, he encountered the golden beast that had just slipped out and was preparing to do something bad. After this little thing was criticized by Yu Yang, it decided to work hard to show off and strive to snatch the throne of Hui Tai Lang's #1 fighter. Therefore, the poisonous maggot was shocked to see a little thing standing in front of it, flaunting its prowess. It was issuing a challenge to him. If the golden beast was not standing on the back of the star sky scorpion, with one claw holding the heaven-swallowing beast as a scabbard and the other claw holding the Tao Tai as a war blade, then Poison Maggot would have laughed until his stomach hurt. What's going on? Am I seeing things? Even in his dreams, Poison Maggot never thought that he would meet such an opponent. The golden beast wanted to learn from its master and make a long speech to declare war, but after posing for a long time, it could not say anything. It scratched the back of its head with its little claw and decided to forget it. It would use the blade to speak. Therefore, it used its small body to imitate Yu Yang's imposing manner. It pulled out the Tao Tai's blade, and with the star sky scorpion as its mount, it leaped into the air. Its little claw carried the giant blade that weighed more than 10 tons and slashed down. This was the move that Yu Yang often used, Earth-splitting slash. Although it was not as good as Yu Yang, it was still at least 30% proficient. Moreover, no matter what move it used, the Tao Tai's blade would not feel good. At least that was how Poison Maggot felt. Chapter 1150. Hoo-hoo. On the meteorite belt, the envoy of the Southeast Divine Kingdom, Mao, had broken the ground and knelt down on one knee, panting in pain. He felt that every breath he took was like a fire burning in his lungs. However, his body was in desperate need of air after a long period of suffocation. He had no choice but to breathe frantically to fill up the air he lacked. There was also air in the asteroid belt, but it was extremely thin. Even if there was no battle, just standing here would make one feel powerless, and it would be hard to stand for a long time. Not only did he have to fight here, but he also had to give it his all. The battle was so tense that it was almost suffocating, making it hard for people to breathe. Mao Padi also knew that he was able to breathe properly for a few seconds because his companions had risked their lives to give him this chance. If not for the Griffin Marshal and the Golden Eagle General's protection, he would have died at the hands of the ancient skeleton. Gubai was the left marshal of the Western and Western divine nations of the 8 major divine nations. He possessed the strength of a superior divine general. No matter how much the outside world hated him, his true strength could not be erased. Among the 8 divine nations, not to mention the 8 God Masters, if there was a ranking list below the God Masters, then this left Marshal Gu Hai of the West Divine Nation would definitely be in the top 5. No matter how it was ranked, it was impossible to put Ancient Skeleton out of the top 5. There were even some people who said that Ancient Skeleton had the strength to compete for the top 3. It was just that the West God Nation had an equally powerful Right Marshal, Wan Xie, who was not as outstanding as the other God Nations. That was why the evaluation was a little lower. Rumble, rumble, rumble. As Mao Padi panted, he raised his head and saw dozens of huge meteors exploding under the attacks of the Ancient Skeleton. Even those as powerful as the Griffin Marshal and the Golden Eagle General had no choice but to hide. He didn't dare to face Gugu's ultimate move, Starburst Explosion, head-on. Let's go and report everything to the Southeastern Divine Master. Marshal Griffin wasn't a fool. He knew the truth a long time ago. Ancient Skeleton from the West Divine Nation was the one supporting the falling Heavenly Bandit. He might even be the West Divine Lord who wanted to conquer the entire realm beyond heaven. Why was the falling Heavenly Bandit able to grasp forbidden power? Why was he able to roll into the Pelican so easily? Why was he even familiar with all the routes? Why was he able to attack the suspending mothership calmly? Why was he able to do all this? Now it was completely clear that it was because the West God Nation had provided information and provided assistance. The West Deity Nation was preparing to make a fuss over the Gannet. But it would not be good to make it public. Therefore, you want to look for the Galactic Pirates. Those stupid space pirates were ordered around by the West Deity Nation and became the scapegoats for the West Deity Nation. The most frightening thing was not that the Gannet had been robbed, but that the West God Nation was prepared to shift the blame to the East God Nation. Among the 8 great God Nations, only the East God Nation could be mentioned in the same breath as the West God Nation, and only the East God Lord of the East God Nation could fight to a draw with the West God Lord. If the Southeastern God Master of the Southeastern God Nation fell out with the Eastern God Master because of the Gannett's robbery and the 2 nations decided to go to war, then the Western God Nation would be the one to reap the benefits. The Griffin Marshal also knew that the West God Nation had been planning for a long time. It was almost impossible for him and the Golden Eagle General to safely return to the country and report everything to the Southeast God Lord. Guhai alone was already difficult to deal with, let alone the right marshal, one Xie, whose strength was similar to Guhai's. Thus, the Griffin Marshal didn't want to break out of the encirclement at all. He was only thinking about how he could send the news back. The hijacking plan of West God Nation was almost foolproof. The only mistake was that the guide envoy, Mao Putty, had actually ended the escort ahead of time and returned to the country on the Gannet. Although Mao Putty's strength was insufficient, he was calm and did not panic when faced with trouble. If it was just to escape, there should be hope. Fierce wind. The Golden Eagle General took advantage of the fact that the Griffin Marshal was restraining the formidable enemy, Guhai, and grabbed the battered guide envoy, Mao Putty, who was injured in many places. Using his movement technique, he brought him along and flew more than 10 kilometers through the meteorite belt. Behind them, Guhai was unforgiving. Wherever he passed, the meteorites exploded. That ultimate move, Star's explosion, was unstoppable. The Griffin Marshal had lost the support of the Golden Eagle General and was in a difficult situation. If the Golden Eagle General did not return to help, it was estimated that he would soon be defeated and killed by Guhai on the spot. How could the Golden Eagle General not know the strength of the Griffin Marshal? Hearing the rumbling explosion behind him, he hurriedly put down the panting Mao Putty. I can only send you up to here. I've hidden a lifeboat in a dark meteorite area about 50 kilometers ahead. You can leave on it. Remember, you must report the truth to the God Master as soon as possible. Otherwise, all our efforts will be wasted. General, Mao Putty knew that this was an important moment. There was no time for hesitation. He immediately nodded and saluted the Golden Eagle General. No need to be so courteous. Let's go. Mao Putty was not a subordinate of the Golden Eagle General. On the contrary, he was an old friend of the Metal General. The reason why he saluted the Golden Eagle General so solemnly and seriously was because Mao Putty knew that once they parted on the battlefield, they would never meet again. The Golden Eagle General gave him a punch. He gave Mao Putty a strong hug, turned around, and flew towards the battlefield where the Griffin Marshal and Guhai were fighting fiercely. Mao Putty solemnly saluted the Golden Eagle General again. He took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and ran forward with all his might. As long as he could find that airship, he could escape. As long as he could return, he could thwart the conspiracy of the West God Nation. Then, he would not let down the trust of the Griffin Marshal and the Golden Eagle General. As for other things, Mao Putty did not have time to think too much about it. Run, run. In Mao Putty's mind, there was only this one thought. 50 kilometers, for an expert of the divine envoy level, was not far. He arrived in the blink of an eye. Although the air in the meteorite belt was thin and the gravity was strange, it was not as easy to walk as it was on the surface. But Mao Putty still quickly arrived at the meteorite dark area. He found a lifeboat that allowed the Griffin Marshal and the Golden Eagle General to move immediately after the change occurred. Marshal, General, I will not let you down. Before Mao Putty jumped onto the lifeboat, he looked back at the distant battlefield. He looked back. He was shocked. His face was full of horror. His heart felt like it had fallen into an ice cellar. The reason was that there were 5 people standing behind him at some point in time. These 5 people had extremely strange appearances. The one in the middle was the shortest. His limbs were shriveled, his appearance was wretched, and he even had 2 large front teeth protruding from his mouth. Standing beside this mouse-like man was a man flying in the air. His black and red cloak fluttered in the wind. When he did not make any sound, it was fine. But once he made a sound, it would be extremely ear-piercing, comparable to the most unpleasant sound in the world. The most incongruous thing was that the man flying in the air had a pair of huge, round, and large ears, which made him look extremely comical. It completely offset the arrogance on his face that was filled with the aura of an expert. Beside the big-eared man was a hairy person with large eyes. He was thinner than a monkey, but on his narrow face, he had a pair of eyes that were 3 times bigger than a normal person's. Occasionally, in this pair of large eyes, there would be a strange light flickering faintly. When Malpady saw it, he could not help but shiver. On the other side of the team of 5, there were still 2 monster-like opponents. One had an extremely long tongue. His face was as pale as a ghost, and his eyes shone with a green light. His blood-red tongue hung down so long that it almost reached the ground. The other one wasn't too excessive in other aspects, but his nose was especially long. If Yang was here, he would definitely point at this fellow and laugh out loud. J8 face. This fellow really looks like the J8 face from Dota's Void Mask. Seeing these 5 people appear, Malpady's heart turned cold. Unless he was born blind, he would definitely be able to tell who these 5 people were. Other than the 5 great evildoers of the West God Nation, these 5 people were the most hated, disgusting, and despised group of 5. They were called the 5 Generals, and some people secretly mocked them as the 5 Dogheads. They were a little different from the 5 great evildoers. The 5 Generals, these 5 people had official ranks and status in the West God Nation. Each of them was a general in the West God Nation's army. Unlike the 5 great evildoers, although people knew that they were the lackeys of the West God Nation's ancient bones, on the surface, the West God Nation did not recognize them as official members of the country. They only appeared as ancient bones' private subordinates. Their facial features were completely different. They were the official generals of the West God Nation, and their boss was the most notorious Right Marshal of the West God Nation, Wan Xie. The appearance of these 5 people meant that this matter had completely fallen out. There was no possibility or leeway for them to redeem themselves, because until the last moment, these 5 people would not easily show their faces. You run pretty fast. The leader of the Whistling Teeth Rats laughed. Unfortunately, we found the target before you moved out this lifeboat. Haha, you still don't know. This meteorite hidden area is our original hiding place. Boss, why are you talking nonsense with him? Just kill him directly. That big-eared Batman sneered. This little bug is too weak. I'm not interested. The guy with the long tongue and the J8 face turned and left, seemingly disapproving of Malpady's struggle before his death. Indeed, among the 5 of them, each of them had the strength to easily kill Malpady. Now that they were surrounded by one person, it was not interesting at all. The guy with the big and evil eyes also shook his head. We came a little late. The 5 great evildoers are now showing off. We have to hurry and snatch some credit. No matter what, we can't let our marshal lose face. All right, you guys go first. Big Ear, you do it. Quickly kill this guy, we'll go and do something big. The Whistling Teeth Rat boss was a cautious person. Although leaving behind the big-eared Batman was enough to crush Malpady, he did not do so. Instead, he stayed and watched Malpady die, making sure there were no accidents. Give me 10 seconds. The big-eared Batman's expression was very arrogant, raising a black hand. Fight! Malpady's heart was filled with despair. Just as he was about to fight to the death with the Batman, a lazy voice suddenly came from the dark area of the meteorite. As the guide, you're only responsible for receiving and not sending. Isn't that a little too much? In this dangerous moment, you actually plan to escape alone? I trusted you before. Is this how you act as a senior? This really hurts my heart. Malpady's mouth was wide open. It was so big that a toad could be stuffed in it. He could not believe the reality in front of him. A young man who could not have survived, let alone appear here, actually walked out of the dark area of the meteorite. His footsteps were very leisurely, as if he was taking a leisurely stroll in his backyard. The expression of the Whistling Teeth Rat boss also changed. With his strength, he actually did not notice when this young man appeared. However, His reaction was extremely fast. He flew towards Mal Padi, ready to kill the young man the moment he got close to Mal Padi. At the same time, he also issued a command, signaling his companions to cooperate and attack. Kill. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.